Michael, the cellar's dark.
Now, Brian is a cannibal. What do you think his favorite part of the body is?
Breast. She likes that white meat. And might I add, yours are big enough to feed a family of 4. Reason for admittance, violent schizophrenic. Treatment, electroconvulsive therapy. What's electroconvulsive therapy? Shock treatment.
I'm the custodian of your fucking destiny.
To be or not to be, eat me, Dwight. He didn't account for the difference in time zones.
No more fucking around with my emotions!
Hi, this is Lauren Marie Taylor from Friday the 13th Part 2 and Girls Night Out. And you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
Yes, welcome back to The Hysteria Continues, episode number 43, I believe, unless I've got that wrong.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Yes, indeed. And this week we are covering Joseph's pick, which is the 1989 slasher comedy pastiche kind of mashup, I can guess, Cutting Class, with some very famous people, or about to be very famous people in it. And we're also going to be doing a top 3, which is a little bit of departure because we're going to be discussing our top 3 favourite non-horror movies, which hopefully will be quite fun for you because I think we've got quite an interesting and eclectic mix. Well, yes, without further ado, I'll introduce you to our deadly classmates. So, how are you doing, Erik? You're in a slightly different place, aren't you?
I am, yes. I am in the sunny northwest of England today, which is why I probably sound a bit different.
So you've got...
Because I'm on a Windows PC this time, rather than my Apple.
I see. And you haven't got your big blue one, have you?
No, the big blue one's back home in Dublin. Yeah.
Okay. So that's why Erik sounds a little bit different, but that's going to be the only difference, isn't it, Erik?
But no less sexy.
No, indeed. And Joseph, how are you doing?
I'm quite well, and I always account for the difference in time zones.
Indeed. Oh, yes, which is a reference to Cutting Class, I believe. Is that right?
Yes. Correct.
Okay. Thank you. We'll be taking questions on that later. And Nathan, how are you doing?
I'm okay, and I never account for the difference in time zones.
Does that mean you...
I know that it's like afternoon for you and Erik.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it's not here. It's really early.
Well, it's 9 o'clock, Nathan.
Yes. That is early.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on a Saturday, I kind of guess that's fair, isn't it? Or a Sunday, is it? Well, it is a Saturday.
I would have done my 3K jog and my swim at that stage.
What, in your dreams?
Yeah. In
your dreams?
There's a chunky Kit Kat waiting at the finish line.
Yeah, see, if somebody is in a car waving a chunky Kit Kat out the window, I will run.
We'll have to try that out one time, I believe.
You're so self-deprecating, Erik.
I know.
It's
better than being self-defecating.
Exactly. That's my favourite line from Kath and Kim. Which they said, "Oh, you're so defecating, Kim." But anyway, that's yes. Well, that's good to hear everyone's all okay, and I'm okay. I have 2 new pussies.
Oh yes,
people will be
and one with a very giallo name.
Argento, yes.
A little
black.
Why did you choose that name for him?
Well, he's a black cat.
Yes, of course.
And he kind of, I don't know, it just kind of fitted him because he was called Teddy, which was a little bit, because he came from a rescue shelter, and I don't think they were their real names because they came from a house with 17 cats in it.
So from Friday the 13th Part 4 to Dario Argento.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And the other one, who I didn't name, has a slightly less horror-related name of Lovely. Although we are thinking
I can tell you didn't name that.
Yeah, I didn't. But I might be renaming him Bitey because he's a little bit of a nipper.
I call the big one Bitey.
Indeed, yeah. We had some friends round the other night, and they're going, "Oh, lovely, lovely," and she went right up to him and he bit her on the nose. But I think it's just affectionate. We'll find out soon. So
he bit your cat on the nose. What kind of friend is he?
Boom, boom. The cat. Oh, yes. Very good. Okay, well, I think as an time-honoured tradition, we should talk about what we've been watching recently. So, Nathan, have you been watching anything of note?
Oh, wow. Well, we haven't been having movie night at Grant Grant's lately.
Ooh.
because he's gotten crazy busy apparently.
Right.
So I haven't really watched anything there. I really don't think I have watched anything.
Gosh.
I've watched a lot of Strangers with Candy because I love that show. But I haven't watched any movies.
I'm not familiar with that.
No, neither am I.
It's a very, very funny show about a 46-year-old woman who was a boozer, a user, and a loser. And she dropped out of high school and became a prostitute. Well, she now that she's 46, she wants to get her life back on track, so she goes back to school. So she's a freshman in high school.
Okay. And is she like sort of tan mom or something? Is she kind of like that?
She's got like a really bad overbite, horrible teeth, like awful hair, and like a weird disproportionate body. I mean, it's a really stupid show because, you know, like they would let her like hang out with these students and date them and stuff.
But it's just lovely that Toya's still getting work, isn't it?
Oi.
Ooh. I saw that.
I wondered which one of you was going to like make a joke.
Toya played Manchester Pride last weekend and she went down a storm.
Did she?
Yes.
What, as in what tent? The two-man tent?
I saw the YouTube footage. There was a big crowd.
Was there?
A big appreciative crowd. Yeah.
Okay. There's nothing like irony for you, is there?
No.
Okay. Well, Nathan, that's a show to look out for. As Erik is so indignant, we'll let you go next.
Yeah, well, probably the reason I'm so indignant is because I forced myself to sit through Halloween 4 again this week, and I still think it's the second worst in the series, you know, apart from, of course, the Rob Zombie abominations. I just think it's devoid of any suspense. I'm just bamboozled as to why so many people think it's probably the second best in the series. I think Halloween 5, which is the bastard child of the series, is 100 million times better. Yeah, it's such a bland movie. It looks like it's made for television, and you know, I did review it for Hysteria Lives. So if you want to hear my reasoning behind it, you can go there and have a look. But it's just not a film that grows on me. I remember I saw this in the cinema in 1989. I actually visited my brother in Manchester. He was here at the time, and it was one of the big cinematic disappointments of my life. I was so looking forward to it, and it just didn't deliver. Even, you know, I was even to my sort of very easily pleased tastes back then. You know, I just thought it was boring, and I still think it's boring.
Okay, I don't remember it being that bad. Is that the Blu-ray you watched?
Yeah, I watched that. I got the Blu-ray from the States, the one that doesn't have the features it promised initially.
Right.
And you know, the picture's okay. The sound is dreadful. 1 minute you can't hear what people are saying. The next minute, you know, it's up really loud and it's all over the place, the sound. And there was kind of a sync problem as well, which I thought might have been an issue with my multi-region DVD player. But I noticed that what's the name of the guy from Synapse Films? Something May, is it?
Don May.
Yeah, he tweeted on. You know, he was on Twitter saying he was watching the film as well. So I just sent him a response saying, "Did you notice any sync problems with sound?" And he said, "Yeah." So thankfully, it's not a problem with my player. Okay. So and it says something about Halloween 4 that another film that I saw the same weekend was much better, but still not great. Was Priest 3D. This was my first time I'd watched a film on a 3D television. And you know, it's a typically soulless Hollywood CGI blockbuster. It's a sort of one of those post-apocalyptic battles between humans and vampires. I think they're 10 a penny at the moment. I mean, it was mildly entertaining. The 3D effects, again, it's one of those 3D films where they don't want to be shameless and gaudy and poke things at the screen. So it's just, you just get a sense of depth, and that's all there is to it. So it was a bit of a letdown as my, you know, introduction to 3D televisions. But I mean, the film itself is passable. It's not one I would buy ever, or probably would ignore if it came on the television again. But I mean, it does, you know, it's a pleasant 90-minute piece of entertainment.
And is it you've got a 3D TV, have you, or?
I don't know. I was at a posh friend's house.
Okay. And were you impressed enough to think about investing in one in the future?
I would. And you know what? If the early 80s 3D films came out on 3D Blu-ray, I would be really, really interested in investing in the setup. You know, Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D, which, if you recall, when I interviewed Martin Sadoff Jr. last year about Graduation Day, he was also the 3D supervisor on Friday the 13th Part 3, and he said that Paramount were producing a 3D Blu-ray of it, as in one that would use the LED glasses rather than the anaglyph ones. But I don't think that's haven't heard any news on it since. But I mean, if Amityville 3D and Jaws 3D came out on Blu-ray, oh yeah, I'd definitely invest. But I mean, the 3D cinema that's coming out at the moment doesn't do what I want 3D cinema to do, and I know Nathan feels the same way. I want, arrows and popcorn and stuff coming out of the screen.
Piranha 3 Double D did a decent job with it.
Yeah, I didn't see that in 3 Double D. Unfortunately, I saw it in 2 Double D, and when I saw the effects, I thought, that would look quite good if only I'd gone to the cinema. But it was only here for 1 week, I think, so I didn't have much of a window of opportunity.
Well, I didn't get to see it at the theater, but I have a 3D TV, so I utilize it all the time.
You obviously get paid very well, young Nathan.
Oh, well, I'm still paying on it.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough. Anything else?
Yes, I watched the Puppet Master Blu-ray, which came out, which I thought was quite fun. I mean, I hadn't seen the film in over 20 years, I'd say. I didn't have that fond memories of it. But watching it again, I thought it was pretty good. I had listened to your commentary as well, Justin, with Callum Waddle, and it's really entertaining. I really like audio commentaries done by journalists or people that might necessarily have an association with the film. Like on the Friday the 13th Final Chapter DVD, there's a commentary by Adam Green and Joe Lynch. That's really, really entertaining. I mean, so you don't have to have people directly connected with the film for it to be a really entertaining commentary. And I thought you guys did a really good job.
Oh, thank you.
I have to say.
I haven't listened to it back yet, but sorry?
Get a copy in the end?
Yeah, I've got a copy. Yeah, I might watch it tonight. And actually, just out of interest, just while we're on the subject, the documentary, the Slasher Movie documentary, which I kind of produced, I got producer credit on, which is Slice and Dice by High Rising Productions, which is co-run with by Callum Waddle. I've got a preview tape or disc or whatever of it, which I'm going to watch tonight.
Oh, brilliant!
And it looks really, really good. It's got some really good people on it, and it's getting some really, really good feedback soon. So hopefully you'll find that.
What's happening with that? Is it doing festivals, or is it coming straight to Blu-ray or DVD?
I think it's up in the air at the moment. It's I think they're kind of looking for offers. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to be watching it tonight, so I will feed back. But from what I've seen, because I've seen I've seen clips of it, and I've seen the trailer, and it looks like it could be the definitive, or hopefully, I'm sure it will be the definitive Slasher Movie documentary. So I will feed back.
Are you in it? Being interviewed?
No, I'm not. But I did produce. I gave. Well, the reason I got producer credit is I think partly I didn't get interviewed in it because they're up in Scotland and I'm down here, and a lot of the interviews were done while they were doing the extra features for lots of different films. So it's been put together over a number of years now, I think. But I gave most of the artwork in the film is stuff that I've kind of given. So lots of kind of rare sort of Japanese and different artwork from around the world. So it should make a nice companion piece to Teenage Wasteland or Slasher Movie Book as well. But I'll feed back and let you know what I think, which I'm sure, given that I've got a producer credit, I'm sure I'm going to love it. But
I was going to say it'll probably be very unbiased.
Yeah, but also the fact is you only have to watch a lot of the any of the High Rising Production extra features to know what a class act they are.
Definitely.
So it's going to be. I'm sure it's going to be wonderful because of the stuff. And also the other thing. I mean, just an aside. The Zombie Flesh Eaters disc looks amazing. I'll just put in advance purchase for the steelbook of that, and that looks like it's going to be the definitive version. But anyway, sorry, back to you, Erik.
The Puppet Master, by the way, looks amazing on Blu-ray. It's amazing, for such a low budget late 80s VHS classic. It's bizarre to see it cleaned up in widescreen and looking like a multi-million-dollar production. The other one I saw, actually, speaking of High Rising, was there. I purchased the Blu-ray of The Beyond that they brought out because they keep doing these brilliant sales on their website. So I got it for something like €7 or €8. It's probably my favorite Fulci film, and it looks amazing in Blu-ray as well. I think it manages to be both ludicrous and scary, which is kind of a hard thing to do. I mean, it's hard to take the pipe cleaner spiders, seriously, or
Yes.
the do not entry sign, always raises a giggle as well. But it still manages to be really effective as a horror film as well, in spite of all its silliness, and its amazing gore. And again, a film from the Video Nasties list that we probably never thought we'd see uncut in this country, and there it is on Blu-ray without anyone raising any eyebrows. Great purchase as well. Some great high-rising features on it.
Okay, great. So how about you, Joseph? What you've been watching recently?
Well, I watched Cube. I showed it to a lady friend of mine, and so I kind of got in the mood to watch Cube 2 because I hadn't seen it since it came out, and I remember not liking it. But so I was like, well, okay, maybe I'll change my mind, but I didn't. I don't like Cube 2. I find it hard to believe that a film with so many great ideas can be so just dreadful. I mean, the problem is that the first Cube is, it plays so well on metaphor and irony, but in this film, all they really want to do is say, hey, look, this cube can collapse in on itself. Look at these special effects. Yeah, these people are time traveling, so what? And the characters are so annoying. I mean, there's constant, yammering back and forth and screaming and whining, and and the characters in the original film, the first Cube. I mean, I could relate to them. They seem like real people, but here it just seems like an excuse to up the effects, and I didn't enjoy it at all, and I wouldn't recommend it, despite having some really unique ideas.
Isn't there? How many Cube films are there?
There are 3. Cube Zero, which is a prequel, is also terrible.
Okay.
But I was kind of looking forward to watching Cube 2 again because, I was thinking, how could a film that has all these great ideas, it couldn't be as bad as I remember, but it's actually a little worse.
Because I don't think, I'm trying to think, I don't think I've actually seen any of the Cube films.
Really?
Not even the first one?
No.
Oh, you need to at least see the first one. It's an incredible film.
No, I'll hunt it out. Yeah, but anything else?
Yeah, I watched this new independent film called Gut, like as in your stomach or gut or whatever. But it gotten some good reviews, but I don't know. I mean, I liked what it tried to do. It's basically about this guy. He's married and he has a child, and he works in an office. He sits in a cubicle all day, and he's kind of going through that whole where his life is kind of at a stalemate, and he's kind of bored with everything. And his friend, who's a horror movie film fan, gets this low budget horror film online, and they decide to watch it. And basically, it's like a snuff film where some guy is cutting open a woman's stomach and sticking his hand inside the wound. And, he's kind of repulsed by it, but at the same time, he can't get it out of his head. So the film tries to, capitalize on, 2 guys seeing something that they've never seen before, and it kind of messing with them. But the problem is that the actors are really terrible. I mean, they're not very believable as human beings. I mean, they're just so flat, and I don't know. I didn't find any of their reactions to what they were watching to be real. I mean, it all sounded so scripted. So, it's a miss. I wouldn't recommend that if you see a copy.
Okay, yeah, but it's not one I've heard of. But at least you've watched it to take one for the team.
Yeah.
Because I imagine you've taken a few for the team, haven't you?
Oh, on many occasions.
So Joseph, have you watched any? Oh, actually, I'll tell you, I've got a little new clip for you to try out. It's.
Well, I wouldn't put that in my mouth if I were you. Might explode.
I hope not. Mason banging in the walls.
Did you catch all of that?
No, I was laughing too much. What did they say at the end?
I'll play it again.
Well, I wouldn't put that in my mouth if I were you. Might explode.
I hope not. Matron doesn't approve of banging in the wards.
So there you go. So anyway.
I like that.
Yeah, I've been hunting high and low for new Matron clips, so I'm sure I'll find a few more. Anything else, Joseph?
A couple more. I finally watched Fantasies, the 1982 made-for-television kind of slasher film, and I enjoyed it. I mean, it obviously could not live up to what I was expecting because that movie took forever to find, but, it's enjoyable for a made-for-TV film. It's basically, kind of has that whole meta tongue-in-cheek thing before it was popular with films like April Fool's Day and Scream and Evil Laugh. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad I actually finally got to watch it. So, I mean, and if you are having a difficult time finding a copy, I know where you can find one, and all you have to do is go to my site, and you'll find the whereabouts, the directions on how to watch it.
So you must have bought the rights.
But considering it was never released on VHS or DVD, and it probably never will be, I don't feel too guilty in saying that now.
Fair enough. I've actually got I downloaded a copy.
How dare you?
From the director, he sent me a copy.
Yeah.
But I was going to watch it because I set up my my MacBook as a media server. My PlayStation 3 is a media server, so I can watch movies from the laptop on the TV. So I got all ready to watch Fantasies, and then it decided it wasn't going to work. It needed to rebuild the AVI index or something, whatever, and it took about 4 hours to do that, by which time I'd watch something completely different. But yeah, something I'll watch at some point this week, hopefully. So, excellent.
That's pretty good. Not too bad.
Have you seen that, Nathan? Did you watch it?
No, not yet, but I will.
Okay. Right. Well, we'll talk about it next time. I'm sure we'll all get to see it. Anything else, Joseph? Is that
one more. I went to see Prometheus. I really wasn't interested in watching it. I mean, I like, the alien films, I don't think they're wonderful, but, they're fun. But, I went. It was at the cheap theater, and I really enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I mean, okay, some of the dialogue is kind of silly, and I thought the old age makeup on Guy Pearce's character, I can't remember his name. I think it's Waylon or something. I thought it was really terrible, but I really loved I love the idea behind it, and I like some of the alien attacks when they get on that weird planet and they get under there and they realize that these people that were there before were like 10 foot taller than they were, and they have all these visions of all these things running through this tunnel, and then all of a sudden all that slime turns into like just different types of threats, and they all just kind of start getting picked off. I like that aspect, and I had a lot of fun with it. I mean, it was a little too long, but I was pleasantly surprised that 90% of the special effects were practical, and I like most of the characters. And I mean, I probably wouldn't ever watch it again, or if I did, I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it. But yeah, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised with it.
Okay. Did you see it in 3D?
No, I did not.
Okay. Well, we've I suppose we've all caught up with Prometheus, haven't we? You saw it as well, didn't you, Nathan?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sure it'll look...
Nathan doesn't like sci-fi.
Oh, that's right.
It's true.
Sci-fi
I wouldn't
horror.
call it sci-fi because it's not really grounded in real science or hard science. It's more of like a space fantasy, I'd call it. But,
yeah.
I don't like fantasy either.
Yeah, I liked it all right. It's got a lot of horror elements too. I mean, a lot of gore and a lot of people getting killed and stuff. So that whet my appetite.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Joseph. I'll just run through a few that I watched. Again, talking of Prometheus, I watched The Connection. I watched Eden Lake yet again last night with some people who hadn't seen it before. Just not as an experiment, but to see what they thought of the ending. So I didn't tell them what the ending was going to be like or what was going to happen. And sure enough, they really liked the film, but they hated the ending. So they wanted the little shits to get their comeuppance, and obviously it didn't happen at the end. But yeah, I watched that. The other couple of things that I sort of watched. I watched the Mist again, but I watched the black and white version, which I got I think it was the Dutch Blu-ray a few years ago, and it came with the black and white version, which is the version that the director says is his preferred cut of the film. So it's exactly the same film, it's just in black and white, and it looked fantastic. I mean, I really like The Mist. I think it's a great film, and it looks good in black and white. I don't really I can understand the whole thing with the monster movies from the 1950s, and that was the feel he's going for, but I don't necessarily agree with him in so much that the film is not like a 1950s monster movie at all. I mean, it has monsters and it has people being chased by monsters, but that's about it really. No 1950s monster movie would end in the way The Mist did, or be that kind of pessimistic, I kind of guess.
Or they wouldn't have Dead Can Dance songs at the end either.
Exactly. No, exactly. But it did look really good, and it's funny actually. Again, I watched it this time to see how many people from The Walking Dead are in it, because obviously the Frank Darabont was the mastermind behind the Walking Dead series before he got fired from the second series. And a lot of the characters, the actors and actresses in the Walking Dead are also in The Mist, so that was quite fun. Have any of you seen the black and white version?
No.
No, okay. It's worth a watch anyway if you've not seen it for a while.
I like The Mist though. I think it's a good movie.
Yeah. It's just it was just interesting to see it in black and white, because it also, because some of the special effects are great in The Mist, but they some of them look a little bit hokey, like the tentacles coming through the garage door onto the garage door.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of CGI looking. I thought everything else looked all right though.
Yeah, but it actually looks better in black and white, because it takes away that layer of realism which contradicts with the fakeness of the CGI. So it works. It's definitely worth a watch. The other ones, I watched a double bill of Pete Walker films, which is I think we've spoken about Frightmare before, which is my favourite Pete Walker film, but also watched his House of Mortal Sin, also known as The Confessional, and which was a later film, a follow-up, one of his follow-ups to Frightmare, which has got a psychotic priest killing people, killing sinners with religious artifacts. So he strangles someone with a rosary, beats someone to death with one of those incense burner. You know, those things they kind of Catholic priests used to swing around. You must know these, Erik, being from...
Oh, I do. Yeah, I know what you mean.
The ones I mean, the ones that all the incense.
I wasn't brought up a Catholic, but I know exactly what you mean. Yes.
No, okay. But I was brought up a Catholic, so I do remember back actually going to church, and it was in Latin. That was how long ago it was. And
the 16th century.
Yeah. Well, no, it was in the 70s. The Catholic masses were still in Latin, which is bizarre.
The 1670s.
Yeah,
very funny. But then it's got it ends with one of Pete Walker's fantastic kind of nihilistic endings, and which he did really, really well in Frightmare as well. Which again, if you've not seen any of those films, they're definitely worth a watch. A kind of proto slashers, and they both star Sheila Keefe, who is this wonderful character actress who in Frightmare happens to be a little old lady, a friendly little old lady who also is a cannibal, who uses power drills to take people's brains out and eat them. Which was made around about the same time as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so it's kind of quite often dubbed as Britain's answer to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, although I think they were made around about the same time, or exactly the same time. So have any of you seen either of those, or both of those?
Yes,
I like
both of them. They're
both
very
great.
good.
Yeah.
But I prefer Frightmare.
Yeah. I mean, Frightmare is easily the better film. But the House of Mortal Sin, I like, and also I like the characters in it. Susan Penn-Halligan and what was her name? The Stephanie Beacham in it. I just think they're quite nice characters in the same way as in Frightmare, the main woman. She's really kind of relatable and sort of like a kind of normal kind of person, and I think that kind of works really, really well. So yes, well, those. Well,
Justin.
Yes.
What do you think of? You talk about the ending to Eden Lake. What do you think? Because Pete Walker's notorious for like the unhappy endings as well. Yeah. So, what's your opinion about the ending to Frightmare?
I love it. I think it's great.
I love it too. And semi spoilers for anybody listening, but I just wanted to say is I love the acting from the father at the end of Frightmare, because he does a great job of showing how conflicted he is at the end about what's basically going down.
Well, I think the difference between the Pete Walker films and Eden Lake is I think the Pete Walker films kind of earn their downbeat endings. I don't feel that Eden Lake earned that ending. I think that it just, I don't know, I just don't think it it just didn't work for me. I felt that was just kind of a cheat to kind of manipulate the viewers into going, "Ooh, the bad guys won." I just didn't feel too.
I think the difference was, and I said this on the forums in one of the discussions about Eden Lake. I think there's a cultural difference, because I think in the UK and in Ireland certainly there's over the last 4 or 5 years there's been this kind of internal debate, certainly in the kind of the right wing press, about chavs, so-called chavs and feral children, and this idea that they don't get punished, people they're not held accountable, and parents aren't accountable for their children, and I think that was the message I kind of got from it, was that the director was sort of saying that that basically people who let their children go feral are just as bad, and you can see why that might happen, but also ultimately they don't get punished for it. And so I think that was a comment on that. Well, not that I necessarily agree with that or disagree with it, but that's what I saw, and I think that possibly doesn't translate abroad as well as it might do. I mean, what do you think, Erik?
We have those chavs here. They're called Lindsay Lohans.
Yeah, but
have y'all seen that movie Them, or ILS? Aliens?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's another example of like a couple being harassed by kids like that, and basically the kids get I guess sort of getting away with it. I mean, I think they say at the end they were caught, but the kids basically kill the adults. So but for some reason that ending I thought was frightening rather than infuriating. Whereas Eden Lakes is infuriating, but both movies kind of had the ending of that depressing ending.
So in ILS, you don't really get a personality to the children. So
exactly, that's what I was thinking.
That's why it works. Whereas in Eden Lake, you get to know these little punks and you hate them, and you really want to see them brought to justice, and it just doesn't happen.
Well, some of them die.
Well, I mean, yeah, but not the ones you really want to see die.
Oh, there's also F as well, that film, which kind of...
I loved F.
That was a great film.
Although but again, they're sort of faceless as well. So
yeah. So I suppose, well, that's... I mean, I don't know how many times we can mention Eden Lake on the podcast, but we've obviously...
Next time.
Next time, yes. Next time on the...
We'll be doing Eden Lake, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should choose
Gets mentioned more often than Toya.
Exactly. Yeah, I know.
We'll cover Eden Lake.
Yes.
And we'll cover Toya.
Maybe Toya's a chav, too.
She's not a chav.
She could be.
You take that back. She's
too old to be a chav.
Is she too old to be a chav?
Yes.
She's a chav's grandmother.
Yeah, well, I know someone who's too old to be a goth. It doesn't stop them.
Susie was never a goth.
I thought you were talking about
I wasn't talking about Susie.
Ooh. Well, I'm not a goth. I haven't dressed in black for 20 years.
Yeah, whatever.
Even though I did come home yesterday and there was a Anagram painted at the bottom of our street.
Yeah, I saw that. Spooky,
isn't it?
That was Erik. Erik did it.
Yeah. Very Blair Witch Project.
Yes. But it wasn't outside our house. It's about 15 doors away. But it just makes you wonder why someone would draw a pentagram on the pavement at the bottom of the road. But there you go. That's the kind of area I live in anyway. So so anyway, that is our recently seen, and I think should we go on to our top threes? We've got sound clips for most of these, and some of them music, some of them trailers, and this is essentially the top three this time. Is we're going to be talking about some of our favourite non-horror movies. So I think some of these will probably surprise you, and obviously I know it's not a slasher thing and it's not a horror thing, but hopefully it'll be interesting enough for you, and I think it's just a bit of an insight into...
Plus we figured that, since Brad Pitt became this big superstar, then why not pick something, outside the horror realm, since he's pretty much outside the horror realm now. It kind of ties in with the show a little bit.
Exactly. Well, we're going to start off with... I'll play the clip first, and then we'll start with Erik's number 3, and then Erik, after we played the clip, you can talk us in about what the film was, and why it's your third most favoritist movie.
Okay, a little quiz for you. Can you guess what decade that piece of music was from?
from the 40s.
You're right. No, it's actually the 20s. That was a piece of Charleston music. No, of course, that's 80s. And the reason I chose a piece of music from this film is because the trailer was sort of 3 minutes long, and I thought it would be a bit excessive to play it. That is from a film called Lucas, which didn't do big business over here. I don't know what it was like in the States, but I discovered this on satellite television. When Sky Movies started up in the late 80s, they only had a small select number of films that they used to show on repeat. So Lucas would be on maybe every third or fourth day. And it's a film I really, really enjoyed. It's a 1986 sort of comedy drama, and it's directed by David Seltzer, and it stars Corey Haim. And of course, everyone laughs when I say how much I love Corey's Haim and Feldman, but they forget that they actually could act in their day. I mean, Corey Haim is brilliant in this film. Corey Feldman was brilliant in Stand By Me, which was another film that came very close to making my top three. In this one, Corey Haim plays the title character of Lucas, who's this bullied 14-year-old who's in high school. He's really intelligent, and he loves nothing more than studying insects and listening to classical music, and is not really into any of that nonsense of, American football and all that type of thing. He befriends a girl during the summer who's played by Kerry Green, who was the year before she was in The Goonies, and she heads off. They both head off to high school then in the autumn, where they sort of start separation. She falls in love with the captain of the high school football team, played by Charlie Sheen, when Charlie Sheen was likable. So, Lucas does his best to win her back, thinking that she's possible girlfriend material, even though she's older than him. And it's a nice sort of coming of age film. It does veer occasionally into high school hijinks. I mean, there's a scene where Lucas, not accidentally, the bullies sort of apply what would you call that stuff? It's kind of a heat rub to his genitals with hilarious consequences. But
icy hot or salve or something like that.
Yes, or deep heat we'd have over here. I don't know if you have that in the States. But I just think it's a lovely little movie. It has the cheesiest soundtrack, as you heard from that clip. I mean, I don't think music can date more than that piece of music does. But I just think it has a lovely feel-good ending. It's not the feel-good ending you expect. Sort of 2/3 of the way through the film, you think, oh, XYZ is going to happen, and it doesn't. But you still end up coming out of it with a smile on your face, I think. So yeah, my number 3 was Lucas. I don't know if again, I thought it's kind of an under the radar film. So I don't know if you guys have seen it.
Oh yeah, I love Lucas.
Yeah,
it's a
I've
great
seen
film.
it. It's a really good film because it does. It's very real how Lucas feels about Kerry Green's character and how she feels about him. Whereas he's just like a little brother type to her. She doesn't see him the same way he sees her. And I love the scene where he finally just wants to know why she can't see him that way, but sees Charlie Sheen that way. I mean, I thought that was a very real scene.
And I like the way Charlie Sheen is, although he's the captain of the high school football team. He's a nice person, whereas in another sort of teen comedy, he would be the bastard.
That's true. Although Kerry Green, the way she treated Charlie Sheen's girlfriend, I can't remember what her name is, Elise?
Yeah, Courtney Thorne-Smith.
I thought that was horrible because I love Courtney Thorne-Smith, and she was given the shaft in that film.
Well, I think her character is very real as well, because she starts out being nice, and then when she's dumped, she turns into a bitch, but you can understand why she turns into a bitch.
Exactly.
Ironically, I know Corey Haim has passed away now, but ironically, he, as a corpse, he probably looks better than Charlie Sheen does now.
Oh, too soon.
No, that's a compliment. I'm complimenting Corey Haim.
Why you
even in death? I'm complimenting him.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Erik.
You probably haven't seen it, Justin, have you?
No, I must admit I haven't. No.
Had you even heard of it?
I heard of it. I thought it was. I was getting confused. I thought it was the one about it was the E.T. ripoff done by Burger King.
Oh no, that's Mac and Me.
I love Mac and Me. I do.
We should have a drinking game where we have to take a drink every time Nathan says he loves something.
Well, then we wouldn't be able to get through the show.
Yeah.
I watched that when I was a little kid.
I've never seen it. Is it really that gaudy McDonald's commercial?
Oh, it's McDonald's,
it's
isn't it?
It's a terrible film.
Yeah.
It's not terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Well, thank you for your number 3, Erik. I think we're going to go with Joseph's number 3 now.
Why did you attack Sergeant Kruger?
I didn't know who it was. I just saw him pull a gun on a girl.
Might I remind you, Mr. Rivers, that the penalty for murder is death by firing squad. Let us hope for your sake that Sergeant Kruger survives.
Yeah? It is the hospital, mein General.
What is the condition of Sergeant Kruger? Yes, I see. Well, let me know if there's any change in his condition. He's dead.
Oh boy, that's from Top Secret. It's one of those Zucker brothers movies. It's like a lot like Airplane, but I think it's probably sacrilege to say, but I think it's funnier than Airplane. It's one of those movies. I think it's probably my favorite comedy of all time. If I'm feeling down, I can watch that film, and then as soon as it's over with, I'm like a totally different person. I always laugh no matter how many times I see it. I think all the sight gags are just hilarious. The little dialogue scenes like that with he hangs up the phone and he's dead. I love stuff like that, and that's why I picked it. It's my number 3.
A Val Kilmer movie on the podcast. Oh my God!
Have you seen it?
I have. I thought it was really, really funny. I haven't seen it in about 15 years, so I don't know how it would hold up for me. But I remember absolutely loving it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's laugh out loud funny. I mean, it's nonstop like sight gags and little jokes and stuff like that. I love that.
Isn't Peter Cushing in it at one stage as well?
Yeah, he is. Mm-hmm. He's in the little the bookstore scene with the magnifying glass too.
Yes.
And they do the dialogue backwards to kind of give it that whole speaking a different tongue there. And they actually filmed that whole scene backwards where they kind of slide up the fireman's pole instead of down.
Have you ever slid up a fireman's pole?
Or slid down one?
I can't say I have.
Well, I wouldn't put that in my mouth if I were you. Might explode.
I hope that matron doesn't approve of banging in the ward.
So,
that's going to come in.
Nathan, have you seen it? I've not seen it.
Yeah, I've seen Top Secret. I think it's a really good choice. It's really funny, although I think Airplane is funnier.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's kind of some extra homework for me. I have to watch that. I've actually got, I'm sure it'd be fun. I don't know if it'll be funny or maybe not, but I've actually got a Poltergeist 3 downstairs to watch tonight.
I love Poltergeist 3.
Ooh,
now I sound like Nathan.
Oh.
Take a shot.
Yeah.
There we go.
I shot at my crabbies. Yeah.
Nathan.
Just took a shot of water.
God,
straight to your head.
Hardcore, aren't we? Right, Nathan, here's your number 3.
Jan, why aren't you eating? Oh, the blueberry's getting stuck in your braces again? Let me help.
That's not it, Mom. I'm watching my figure for my new boyfriend.
New boyfriend? Wow, that's news.
I'll say. What's his name, Jan?
His name is George.
George what?
George, Tropicana.
What a nice name. Is he Cuban?
No, I mean Glass. George Glass.
That's funny. I've never heard of a George Glass at our school.
That's because he's a transfer student. He came in the last week of school. He's really good looking, and he thinks I'm super cool.
Sure, Jan.
So, Nathan, I know what that is.
Love it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Very Brady sequel. I love both Brady Bunch movies, but I don't know. I kind of prefer the sequel a little more. I love Jan. She's probably my favorite character in the whole movie. And I just think everybody cast in that movie does a really good job. And the Brady movies are so hilarious. Just I love the fact that it's at the time it was modern time and they're still stuck in the 70s and they're just such a happy family. I mean, even when you got somebody holding a gun on them, they're still all smiles and cheery. I mean, they're always happy. That's one of those movies I could watch when I'm feeling down and it makes me feel better.
Same here. I think it's. I love the Brady Bunch movies. I think they're absolutely fantastic, and I'm old enough to actually remember the Brady Bunch being on TV in the 70s. but I do. Yeah, I think they're hilarious. And the girl or the woman plays Jan in it is fantastic, and of course we even named a cat after George. Dear departed George Glass was named after the Brady Bunch, Jan's imaginary boyfriend. And I love the scene in it. Is it in the sequel when she gets or maybe the first one, where it's the new Jan Brady?
That's the first one.
That's the first one, and she gets that massive
with
wig,
the afro,
with the afro, yeah. And she hears voices.
I think the scene I like in the sequel is when Marcia and Greg are having to share the attic, and they realize that they may not be brother and sister, so they start having feelings for one another. And he's like, Marcia, and she's like, yes, Greg.
That's brilliant. Her voice.
I just love everything that has to do with Jan and George Glass. I mean, the scene where she brings a mannequin, like she actually thought that was going to fool anybody.
And no one really says anything, though. That's what's funny.
I love
because no one really cares. I mean, she's like she's such an outcast, and she doesn't even realize it. No one else realizes it.
Yeah.
But the girl who plays Marcia is brilliant as well. I find it really, really funny.
I love how she says skewl.
That's skewl.
Yeah.
Listen, the George Glass scene, because I know from the first film they took a lot of the sort of storylines and incidents from the original series. Was George Glass in the original series?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, I think there was an episode about George Glass.
Yeah,
it's just so brilliant.
But probably not quite so funny.
I'm sure it wasn't.
Because I went.
It was a good name for a cat too.
Yeah.
Well, I went to see the first Brady Bunch in the cinema, not knowing what to expect. I kind of was dragged there against my will, but I have to say it was one of the best cinema going experiences of my life. It was just such a surprise. Those two Brady Bunch films are up there with my favorite comedies of all time. There's a third one as well where they go to the White House, but I think it was a kind of a straight to video, and that I think the only carryover actors were Shelley Long and whoever plays the father. What's his name?
Oh yeah.
Gary Cole.
Gary Cole. I think they're the only two actors who remain in I think it's all the kids are new in it, and it doesn't have the wit or invention of the first two movies.
The films they remind me a little bit of the what they're called, the Addams Family Values.
I love those movies too.
I like those as well.
Yeah, they're not quite as good as the Brady Bunch, but they've got some. They're pretty funny as well. And I remember watching those at cinema and thinking they were they were very good. So very good choice, Nathan. So my mystery number 3. Yes, it's Toyah in concert. No, the rest of it.
You're so bold.
In the early morning hours of New Year's Eve, the SS Poseidon, en route from New York to Athens, was struck by a 90-foot tidal wave.
The Poseidon Adventure, I have a love of 70s disaster movies. So
I had a feeling you'd pick that, considering you had that party not too long ago.
Not too long ago, indeed. And we watched it again on high definition Blu-ray, and it was it still looks fantastic. And I love 70s disaster movies. The only one that doesn't really stand up for me as much as I remember was the Towering Inferno, which I actually found a bit overlong and a little bit dull. But I love the Poseidon Adventure, Earthquake. And I've been trying to get hold of some of the other Irwin Allen sort of 70s TV disaster movies like Flood and all of those. And I do, I think they're just really good fun. And also it's kind of, I guess the 70s were more of an innocent time where people's idea of a good time was watching lots of people die in disasters. And of course we live in a slightly more cynical time, I'm going to guess now, or a slightly more jaded time. But back in the 70s and early 80s, on Boxing Day or on Christmas Day, the big film, and of course this was way back before we didn't have cable in the UK then, and we had like 4 channels, and it would always be the big movie would be the way to celebrate, Christmas and peace on earth, was watching lots of people in polyester even being drowned, crushed or burnt to death with a 70s disaster movie. And Poseidon Adventure I think it's just really, really good fun. I mean they're very if you pull them apart, they're very mechanical, I kind of guess, and cynical, and it's just kind of getting lots of washed up actors and actresses together. But you know, there was a time with it, and of course I also rewatched the airport movies as well, and I do love Airport 70 and Airport 75 with Karen Black flying the plane.
See, I blame them for my fear of flying.
Do you?
Yes. I watched them when I was young, and I didn't find them amusing at all.
Right.
Yes. They were quite terrifying.
Yes. But no, that's my, you know, it's kind of, there's certain genres, obviously the horror genre and the slasher movie genre that kind of is my favourite. But if I had to pick a second favourite type of movie, it probably would be the kind of disaster movie. And I, you know, a bit of disaster movie junkie. So yeah, Poseidon Adventure never gets old. So that's my number 3. So
did you see the remake?
I did see there was 2 remakes, wasn't there? There was there was
one with Kurt Russell, and then was there one for Made for TV or something?
Yeah, there was one where the boat gets turned over by a bomb rather than a tidal wave or a tsunami, which is a bit. I didn't watch that one, but I watched the remake. Is it Wolfgang Petersen? And it wasn't nearly as good. It was good to see Fergie getting drowned, but I think she gets drowned, or does she survive in that? I can't remember. But the special effects are great, but it doesn't have it doesn't have Leslie Nielsen in it.
But but from what I can remember, just in the boat capsized literally 5 minutes into the film.
Yeah,
there's none of this waiting around.
Well, I liked in the film. The thing I liked in it was Richard Dreyfuss was about to commit suicide, wasn't he, by jumping off the boat, and then he looks across the water and sees this huge, massive wave coming towards him, and then it kind of saves his life. Ironically, I can guess. And the special effects are so much better, but it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't have enough chiffon. And all those kind of stuntmen dressed in chiffon, you know, in drag, falling off balconies and stuff, pretending to be ladies. Which is kind of. There was a great website, and it's gone now. But it was somebody had filmed, done a remake of the Poseidon Adventure with him playing all the parts in it. And I think it's up on YouTube. Actually, it's like a fan remake with him playing every single part of the film, which is quite amusing. But yeah, well, that's my number 3. So I think, without further ado, I think it's time for that damn cat.
He's a cat.
It will startle your senses, challenge your intellect, and alter your perception of the future by taking you there. Star Trek, the motion picture, rated G.
Yes, very much a number 2 in lots of people's minds, but it's a special place in my heart. That's the 1979 original Star Trek movie, the one that everyone seems to hate. Although from my research into IMDb and places like that, there are a lot of people who like it as much as I do, but the general consensus is that it's very, very slow and is not faithful to the television series at all. Now, fortunately, I'm not a Trekkie, so I don't care that it's not faithful to the original series. The story is that there's this gigantic intergalactic cloud heading towards Earth, and it's just sort of devouring everything in its path. And they discover that at the center of the cloud is this giant spaceship and it's controlled by a machine intelligence known as V'ger. So the crew of the Enterprise are sent out to try and reason with it. Now, it's such an incredibly visual movie. And really needs to be seen on a big screen. So if you're watching it in pan and scan version on a tiny little television set, as I did in the 80s, you know, it's not going to make any impact. But when I saw sort of the widescreen version on a decent-sized television, it really sort of blew me away. Now, I did go see this in the cinema when it came out, which I guess was probably 1980. My dad took me to see it, and I fell asleep because to a 6-year-old, it was boring. But I think it's a film filled with interesting ideas. It's got a great twist at the end that I certainly didn't see coming. I don't know if other people had. And it's got just so many really, really inventive visual effects. And I don't care if it's kind of thin on characterization and that. For me, it's just a feast for the eyes. And I brought my DVD over to a posh friend's house who had a home cinema, so I projected it onto their screen, and I was in my element, I have to say. It was really, really good. And I know everyone thinks Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, is sort of the best of the series, but I think it's far inferior to the motion picture. I think it's very much a standard aliens and spaceships and explosions film, whereas this one is more about ideas, and it's closer linked to probably 2001 than it is to Star Wars. So yeah, my number 2, Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and I'd be very surprised if any of the three of you share my love for the film.
Actually, I agree with you. I think it benefits from not being silly and campy like the original series. It has all these strange ideas, and it has kind of this underlying, almost like a message going throughout. All the visuals and stuff. It is a little slow, but it's a good movie. I think it's a good science fiction fantasy film.
I know Nathan probably won't have seen it.
No, I haven't. I haven't ever seen an episode of the TV show or any of the movies.
All right. Well, I've seen all the movies, but I haven't seen the TV shows.
You've not seen any TV shows?
No.
Okay. So again, that's kind of mainstay of my growing up.
I did. I saw the odd episode. When maybe I was 4 or 5, but it was kind of on in the background while I was, playing with Barbie. I mean, Action Man.
I'm not much of a Trekkie either, but I prefer the Next Generation. If I have to watch the show.
No,
what I like about Star Trek, the movies anyway, is that the cast are all kind of sort of middle-aged. What I didn't like about the recent reboot was that it was just obnoxious teenagers in space.
And a lot of lens flare.
Filmed with shaky cam. And I was like, I don't like this film. What's the fuss about this film? It's not very good. Give me the motion picture any day. Yes, I am old-fashioned. I am a grumpy old man. But not as old as Justin.
Well, barely not as old. But I think it's a good film. It's just not a Star Trek film, as far as I was concerned. I think it's a good. I think it's a cerebral, intelligent, very beautiful looking science fiction film. But it's not a Star Trek movie. Having said that, you could say the same thing about the Batman movies. Apart from Joel Schumacher's codpiece, duo. Then all of the Christopher Nolan ones, which they're kind of the po-faced Batman trilogy he's just finished, is nothing like obviously the '60s powwow, bish bash kind of comic book things. But I think I can understand why a lot of people would have been confused by it, because I think it's not a Star Trek film. I mean, Star Trek was campy at the time, I'm pretty sure, when it was made. And it was quite knowing the '60s version, and it's that was my criticism of it. Is not that you always have to be spoon-fed exactly what you expect, but I think if you went to watch a Star Trek movie, you would be expecting to see I don't know, William Shatner's toupee spinning or something, or or some kind of sexual chemistry, sort of like a bit of flirting and sort of arched eyebrows.
They get that in Star Trek V when Uhura does a seductive dance to distract some baddies.
Yes. But no, good choice. Yeah, no, it's interesting.
Thank you.
So yes, okay. Well, I think we go up for Joseph's number 2 next.
They were brothers from 2 different worlds.
What are you so afraid of?
With only a woman in common.
Why didn't you tell Natalie she was in your dream?
She belonged to one.
God, you must be furious.
Furious is a good word.
But was desired by the other.
I have thoughts about you like I've never had before.
It's brother against brother.
I'm gonna fight for her.
Divided by passion. William McNamara, Elizabeth Shue, and Dylan Walsh star in Radio Inside. You never know about love.
Okay, first I have to say that trailer is totally misleading. William McNamara, Dylan Walsh, and Elizabeth Shue are involved in a love triangle, but that trailer makes it seem like a romantic comedy, but this movie is so much more than that. It's basically about William McNamara plays this kind of detached kind of guy whose father drowned like a year earlier, and he's kind of having a hard time dealing with it, and he moves down to Florida to live with his brother, and he gets a job as a lifeguard at a pool, and he kind of falls in love with his brother's girlfriend, who's played by Elizabeth Shue, and there's that whole kind of sexual tension there between them, and him trying to not upset his brother. But the movies are really weird and quirky. I mean, he kind of has these conversations with this guy who's supposed to be Jesus Christ, because he's kind of dealing with issues on religion and whether or not he's worried what happened to his father after his father died, so he might be a little unhinged, but they never really say. But I just think it's an incredible film, and it's not a lot of people have heard of it, and it just goes in a lot of places you don't expect, these kind of love triangle movies to go, and the ending is really vague. I mean, it doesn't really have a clear-cut solution as to who Elizabeth Shue ends up with, and I mean, if you like those kind of off-the-radar independent films, I mean, it's very well acted, and it's so weird and quirky that you can't get it out of your head, and I highly recommend it if you can find a copy. I mean, it's a really rare film. I mean, I don't think it's been released to DVD. I mean, I've tried, certain avenues to find a copy lately because I haven't seen it in a while, but no such luck. But yeah, that's my number 2. It's called Radio Inside. It's from 1994.
I've never heard of it.
Neither have I. Yeah. I could have done without the cranberries on the trailer, to be honest.
Yes.
Yeah, that trailer just is not. That makes it seem like a totally different movie, and it is a totally different movie.
You seen it, Nathan?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
But if he steals his brother's girlfriend, then he's a horrible person.
Well, he doesn't steal his girlfriend. Plus, I love Elizabeth Shue. I've always loved Elizabeth Shue. I mean, I'll watch anything she's in, and anything she gets out of too.
Woohoo,
Joseph.
Yeah, behave,
indeed. Well, thank you for that, Joseph. Well, you never know. We might watch some of these one day. But yes, well, Nathan is your number 2.
Listen, sister.
Thanks, but I'm not your sister.
Okay, Jenny, I don't mind.
But you should mind. You heard what Edna said about the rules. How about if I just move your stuff to the upper?
How about if I move your ass across the floor?
Bullseye book for child molesting film at 11.
Let it rest, Jenny.
Let it rest, Jenny. Your friend has the right idea.
My friend may be afraid of you, but I'm not.
Okay, Nathan, what was that?
That was Reform School Girls. And, earlier, Justin, you said that when you, that you have horror as your first, subgenre, and I'm the same way. Like, horror is number 1, but women in prison movies is number 2. I love how campy and over the top. I mean, they're so ridiculous. I mean, this movie is about a girl going to reform school, and Wendy O. Williams is the head bad girl, and she's 37, and she's in reform school playing a teenager.
And she's kind of infamous for that kind of hard lifestyle. She looks about 57.
Yeah, so she even looks older than 37. I love her, though. She's great in that movie. It's just she's not a teenager.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's just part of the campy nature of the movie. I mean, it's... then you got the head matron who's like the evil, woman who, it's got the one scene I don't particularly care for where she kills a kitty. So she deserves what she gets in that movie after doing that. And Sybil Danning plays the warden. And, of course, Sybil Danning's great in everything she's in. So it's just a bunch
of I'm sure Joseph wants to say.
Yeah, it's also got Tiffany Helm and Darcy DeMoss in small roles.
And a bunch of cat fights.
Does Tiffany Helm dance? I thought you said cat flaps. Sorry.
No, cat fights.
Cat fights.
Cat flaps.
Sorry. Yes, that makes more sense.
Well, it'd be good with some cat flaps, wouldn't it?
It'd be very easy to escape from the reform school if there was cat flaps.
If they were very small.
I don't remember Tiffany Helm dancing, though.
No, she's more of a background. Her and Darcy DeMoss basically sit in the background and kind of crack wise every now and then.
Well, they're Charlie's, like the Wendy O. Williams, the head bad girl. They're like her girls, like her lesbian lovers.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it made before or after Friday 5?
It was after, wasn't it?
After, I think.
Yeah, because Friday 5 was 85, right?
Yeah, and this is 86.
This is 86, yeah.
Yeah, and it's directed by Tom DeSimone, who did the Hell Night, wasn't it?
Yeah. Isn't it his brother Bob DeSimone who's in Friday 5?
Yeah. Billy.
Okay. I've not seen the film actually, but it's a film I should watch.
I haven't seen it either. Yeah.
I've even watched like Jess Franco's.
I like women in prison films.
I bet you do. But
I do.
Have you seen Wanda the Wicked Warden?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that
I've seen all the Ilsa movies, which Wanda's they sort of made it an Ilsa movie.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Is that one of the Ilsa movies? Yeah, I have seen that. Yeah.
But yeah.
I also love Chained Heat with Linda Blair and Sybil Danning.
Yes.
Oh, I love that movie.
And John Vernon in a hot tub.
Oh yeah. I love he has a hot tub in his office in the prison.
Fantastic.
That's the one thing missing from my office is the hot tub.
And John Vernon. Yes.
John Vernon's dead. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
Why are you? You just want me to cry. That's all you want.
Go on then.
Have you ever seen John Vernon with a big bushy beard?
Yes, in Curtains.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. There you go.
Right. Well, anything else you want to say on about that, Nathan?
No, just I love those movies.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. And I'll give myself a little bit of the... and here's my number 2.
It was one of those strange nights.
Finally meet the right girl and you blow it.
That could ruin your whole day. In a big way.
Dad, it's happening. This is it. This is really it. This is the big one. This is a joke, right? It's really happening. This can't be true. We'll all be dead if we don't get out of here.
Any ideas what that is?
I knew you would pick that. I knew you were going to pick that.
Miracle Mile.
Miracle Mile, indeed. Yes.
You're always talking about how much you love it on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, it's one of my favourite 80s movies. I finally got hold of the DVD, and if you don't know the story of Miracle Mile, and I love those trailers as well, where they set something up so you think you're watching a different type of movie, a trailer for a different type of movie. It's like Audition did it, the Japanese film, and the most recently Rec 3 with the does it as well, pretending to be a romantic comedy to start off with, and this film basically starts like a romantic comedy, a very sweet romantic comedy set in LA, and the main character invites a girl out for a date, and he oversleeps, and he goes to see if she's still there, and she isn't, but it's like 4:30 in the morning, and it's outside a 24-hour diner, and he picks up a telephone. There's a payphone ringing, and he picks it up, and there's basically someone saying that a nuclear war has started, and they will be hit in the next hour or 2 hours or so, and he doesn't know whether or not it's a joke but it turns out to be a wrong number, and he hears the person on the other end of the phone being shot, and so he goes into the 24-hour diner, and he talks to the kind of the people who are there, who are either just starting their day or ending their day, and he tries to convince them that the apocalypse is coming, and slowly but surely people realise that actually nuclear war has been declared, and Los Angeles is going to be destroyed very, very shortly, and so they race to get out of LA. And he tries to basically find the woman he's just fallen in love with. So it's this kind of romance amongst Armageddon, and it's a very kind of sweet, scary, horrific, and fun movie. And it's I think it's very, very dated, obviously, but in a very good way. And it's got great scenes like where he runs into like a raw LA gym where everyone's in 80s lycra and looking for a helicopter pilot. And then this gay muscle man says he can fly the helicopter. And it's just it's very, very 80s, but which of course is a good thing. But it never gets old. So, but I presume you guys have seen it, haven't you?
Yes.
I love it. I like Anthony Edwards. I think he's underrated.
Yeah, I think he's underrated as well. And it's got a very... I mean, I won't say, because people, if you've listened to it, you may not have seen...
and I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Okay. Well, all I'll say is it's got the kind of ending that you wouldn't expect, but it works really well in that context. Yeah, you should definitely watch it, because it's not a sci-fi film. It's more of a... Well, it's not a sci-fi film at all. It's surprisingly...
More of an adventure, almost?
Yeah, and it's surprisingly big budget, isn't it? It actually has some very effective scenes of hundreds of people running, LA streets, suddenly complete pandemonium, and people are running and rioting, and and then and it keeps you guessing for quite a lot of the film about whether or not this actually is going to happen, or it's some kind of sort of joke, or it's so you just don't really know for part of the film whether or not it's actually real, or there's just a mass-induced panic, and it's all kind of this one man maybe misheard or misunderstood what somebody said on the phone, and I think it was very, very clever. And I lent it to a friend of mine, or someone I went to college with. He actually grew up on Miracle Mile in Los Angeles, and he at the same time, and he hadn't seen the film since it came out, so he said it was a real trip down memory lane. But if you've not seen Miracle Mile, then I would suggest looking out for it.
It's a good movie. It's a really good movie.
Oh, thank you very much. And yeah, Nathan, you should definitely check it out.
I will.
Good, excellent. Well, we're moving on to our number ones, and Erik, I think you have a special number one for us here, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Look at me. I haven't done this in 20 years.
Oh. Grandpa!
Oh, the cane, Charlie.
Oh, Grandpa. Yeah, that's, of course, a bit of the dialogue and music from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I didn't realize how rude that scene was until I purchased the soundtrack maybe 10, 15 years ago, and myself and my cousin were listening to it, and we both sort of went, this sounds a bit suggestive without the visuals to go with it. So I always love that scene for that. But this is a film I grew up with, and like you were saying about Poseidon Adventure, Justin, this one was on every Christmas in Ireland. So it has like a lovely nostalgic feel for me as well, as it being a good film. This is actually written by David Seltzer, who directed my number 3 film, Lucas. So who knew I was such a fanboy of his? I didn't realize until I was compiling this top 3. It's, of course, a story of an international lottery to win one of 5 tickets to a tour of this most mysterious and famous chocolate factory in the world. And, the film is kind of set in this no man's land. Like, the bulk of the actors seem to be American, but the film is made in Germany, and then you have lots of international cast members, some from Britain, some from Germany. And so it has this sort of otherworldly feel where you don't quite know where it's set or what time period. It gives it this sort of unique vibe, and has a real sinister edge to it at stages. I think I said in the first podcast that I credit Willy Wonka with sowing the seeds of my love for horror, because there are a few sequences in it that really wouldn't make it into a kid's film these days, I don't think. I used to always hate the scene where Augustus Gloop got stuck in the pipe, because I probably still am quite claustrophobic, so that scene used to sort of freak me out slightly. But more than that was the Wonkatania scene, which is that boat they take through a sort of darkened tunnel, and you have Willy Wonka sort of chanting this sinister song, and all the while there's these psychedelic images being projected onto the walls of the tunnel, including one where a millipede crawls across somebody's face. It's like something from a David Lynch movie rather than a sort of a kid's, well, what's supposed to be a kid's movie. It's probably more of a family movie is what I would call it. But even like with all its zaniness and strangeness, the film has, a real heart as well. And, at times the sinister Willy Wonka, by the end of the film, he turns out to be a really good guy and has one of those great feel-good endings with a great feel-good one-liner to finish on. I just think it's a joy from start to finish. And I'm not one for musicals, but I love the songs in the film as well. So yeah, the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory surprisingly is my number 1, not Dirty Dancing. The reason Dirty Dancing isn't in my top 3 is because, well, I've mentioned it so much that I just didn't want to bore people anymore with Dirty Dancing. So I said I'd give them a top 3 that didn't include the Patrick Swayze movie. So yeah, Willy Wonka at my number 1.
Very good
Eric,
choice.
I didn't want to interrupt you earlier, but when you said that that movie basically had sown the seeds of your love of horror films, but the minute you said that, I wanted to bust out with "Sowing the Seeds of Love."
Oh, cool! This podcast does need more Tears for Fears.
Yeah,
it's the one thing lacking, Justin.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well,
many people have said that to me.
Have they? Have they said the same about Kajagoogoo or anything?
They have. There should be more Kajagoogoo as well. Strangely, they said there's too much Susie.
Did they? What about Toya?
No, they said there's still not enough Toya.
So is that the word on the street?
It is.
Or in your mind?
No, the street.
What about people that think there's too much of both?
Ooh. That sounds like the word of the streets of Chattanooga.
Well, What do you think of the remake? I haven't seen the remake.
I didn't like it mainly because the heart is ripped out of the film. There's no Willy Wonka in the film is just weird, whereas in the original he's weird and nice at the same time. In the remake, he's just weird. It's as I said at the time, Johnny Depp channeling Michael Jackson, which is creepy.
Yeah, the first, Gene Wilder, he's more of eccentric, and Johnny Depp more of like a creep.
He is. He's like an 8-year-old trapped in a 40-year-old's body or something. There's something just not engaging about him at all. Okay. I mean, it looks great, and I like Tim Burton films, but it didn't engage me at all, I have to say.
Okay. Yeah, well, no, I think it's a great choice, and it's a film I grew up with. But that clip in isolation is rather suggestive, isn't it?
It does. Oh, Grandpa! Oh, Charlie, I haven't done this in 20 years. Yeah, because you were probably in prison.
Yes. Well, I think we'll draw a discreet veil over that. But
every time I watch that movie, though, I want Veruca Salt to win the factory.
Why?
Because I love her.
Oh, no.
I think Erik probably likes her dad.
She's so evil and bitchy. I mean, she's amazing. Who's y'all's favorite kid in the movie?
Charlie.
Oh, Charlie's boring.
He's not boring. He's really nice and good, and he earns a living for his family.
That's boring.
No, it's not boring.
Mean, cruel Veruca.
Justin, tell him it's not boring.
Or I'll take smart-ass Violet, too.
I like Violet.
Yeah.
The gum chewer.
No, I do agree with you, Erik. I do root for Charlie. So
yeah, thank you, Justin.
Yes, okay. Well, thank you very much, Erik.
You guys appreciate the villains.
Well, I do appreciate them as well, but yeah, it's kind of, you want it all to come good in the end, don't you?
Yeah, because he can only afford bread and cabbage water for his family.
Well, I find that kind of funny. They're poor, yet the grandfather has enough to go get tobacco.
It's an addiction.
Smoking is an addiction you'll never understand.
You don't smoke, do you? Erik?
No, I don't. I hate cigarettes.
So,
despise them.
Why are you saying it's an addiction you'll never understand?
Because I'm trying to stand up for Charlie and his family.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Erik's very defensive of Charlie.
I feel very passionate about this subject. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank goodness you didn't choose Dirty Dancing, and God knows what we would have got into with that. So
I would have had the whole film as his lead-in sound clip.
Yeah. Yes. Well, you can't isolate anyone because it's just brilliance for 97 minutes. You can't isolate one individual clip. So
have you ever carried a watermelon, Erik?
I have. There's many times I've been in a supermarket where I've carried a watermelon and said it to people and they don't get it, and I laugh for myself.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Family Guy makes fun of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory a lot, or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
They also made fun of Dirty Dancing, where he goes, "Nobody puts baby in the corner." He goes, "I do. I'm her father. She's 16 years old. How old are you? 40?"
Yes. And the Muppets, the recent Muppet movie actually doesn't make fun. It homages Dirty Dancing.
Yeah. So that's supposed to be quite good, isn't it? The Muppet movie.
Because Kermit has to do the lift with Miss Piggy.
Okay.
Is that the one where they try to save the theater?
Yeah.
I like that movie. I actually didn't expect to like it, but I thought it was kind of cute and fun.
Yeah.
For a kid's movie,
Yeah.
What's the theme song to Dirty Dancing?
I've had the time of my life. Is
okay.
The time of my life.
Because I tell you, I always get Dirty Dancing and Flashdance mixed up.
Flashdance is great as well. That's the one where she takes her off her bra and pulls it out her sleeve.
Erik,
what's the theme song to Flashdance?
Sorry?
I just said, what's the theme song to
Flashdance? Is Maniac. She's a maniac.
Yeah, okay.
Well, no, it's Flashdance, What a Feeling by Irene Cara.
Well, they use Maniac too, isn't it?
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. If Mitch King is listening, I urge him to look up Michael Sembello performing Maniac on some American show in 1983.
You know what Michael Sembello's song I like?
He has another song?
Monster Squad. The Rock Until You Drop. That's Michael Sembello from Monster Squad.
You're not selling it to me.
You've never seen Monster Squad?
I have seen Monster Squad, but I don't remember the song.
Dance until your feet fall off.
Why would you want to do that?
What's Michael Sembello? I'm just saying, I like that song better than Maniac.
Well, I've never heard that song.
I think.
And I like Monster Squad, so there you go.
Okay, well, let me bring this back on topic
Yes, that's what I was about to say.
before we lose our slasher-loving brethren. So, Joseph, thank you, Erik. And
Thank
Joseph, here's your number one.
The permutations were endless.
Okay, go ahead.
They tried again going to the source, but even while keeping him separated from Abe by 2 rooms,
Ask him his name.
Thomas Granger's condition could only be described as vegetative.
What did he say?
From this, they deduced that the problem was recursive, but beyond that, found themselves admitting, against their own nature, and once again, that the answer was unknowable.
What do you think he changed? It couldn't have been much. We didn't have any contact with him in the 3 hours he could have done anything. I know he changed this. I know we weren't having this conversation the first time through, so you don't know what we lost. Really, it could not have been much. It doesn't matter how much. It just matters that it's changed. Look, Abe, I know what you're saying, okay?
The question should have been what to do with the comatose man in the guest bedroom.
We can wait this out.
But in Abe's mind, he was already compiling the list.
All right, my number one is the 2004 very low budget independent film Primer. It's basically these kind of mechanical engineers. They, when they're not at work, they spend a lot of time in their garage kind of trying to invent stuff. And I think what they're working on is some kind of anti-gravity machine for a venture capitalist firm. And basically they accidentally discover time travel. And so they build this kind of clunky time machine box thing that it looks like a coffin, like a makeshift coffin almost, that they lay in, and it takes them back in time. So say if they lay in it for like 3 hours, it'll take them back 3 hours. But basically the time travel is very confounding and very confusing, and the movie itself, I mean, you'd have to watch it like 10 times to understand what's going on. But the director, who's also one of the stars in the film, basically kind of obfuscated a lot of the details because he wanted the audience to be, like in the dark as much as the characters are. But it doesn't really matter because the time travel angle is actually more of a red herring in the film. It's more or less really about the kind of disintegration of friendship between two guys who kind of discovered this amazing thing, and it just kind of tears them apart. And the reason I picked it, because it's probably, whereas, Back to the Future is you get this wacky scientist who has this car that goes 88 miles an hour and it immediately, sends them back in time. This is probably, one of the most realistic portrayals of what would happen if someone actually did discover something that amazing. And, it kind of, it acts as like a kind of a linchpin to, to keep the actual story, the word I'm looking for. It's kind of like it drives the whole friendship angle, and it gives it that more of that realistic thing. And it was made on like a $7,000 budget, and basically they filmed a lot of it in families' houses and garages and tract homes, and at parks out in the open in Texas. And so it has that kind of almost like it was filmed in a garage type feel. But it's really well made for the budget, and it has so many unique ideas, and it has a really great message. And if you like really confusing films like Memento and Inception, I would argue that this is a lot better because it has that whole homegrown thing, and it's like this is what would really happen if someone discovered time travel. But that's my number one, Primer.
Okay, I've not seen it. How about you guys?
No, I haven't seen it either.
I haven't either.
Sounds good though.
Yeah, it does sound good. I mean, what would you?
It's really good.
Yeah, what would you do with if you found a comatose man in your bedroom, Erik?
Depends. Are we talking Bob Hoskins or Barry Manilow?
I don't know.
Well, this guy looks more like you don't really get to see the comatose man as much as you would think, but he kind of looks like Barry Manilow. He'd be close to Barry Manilow.
Well, then I'd run out and lock the door behind me, I think.
Although he does have a beard.
Oh, well, then I'd run in and lock the door behind me.
Erik.
No, but it's also a movie like, if you did discover, time travel, it could really fuck things up. I mean, basically, their friendship really goes to shit over this thing because, they lose trust in one another, and things are always changing, and they're like, they don't understand how something could have happened. And like this whole comatose man thing, he's like, how did he find out about the machine? They don't know, because obviously it's a time machine. It could have happened anytime, anywhere, and so it kind of drives them batty. It's a lot like Pi and Cube, and it has that whole kind of puzzle feel to it. And so I would, if you like those movies, go seek this one out.
Cool. Well, thank you for that recommendation, Joseph. That sounds like a good one. So thank you for your number one. And Nathan, we don't have a sound clip for your number one, but do you want to tell us what's your top pick?
There's just too many scenes I love in this movie. I couldn't narrow it down to one sound clip, but my number one pick, and nothing's ever going to take the place of this movie for me, is Harold and Maude from 1971. And it's about this young, 20-year-old guy who's deeply depressed, and he's obsessed with death, so much so that the only thing that he actually enjoys is shocking his mother with fake suicide attempts. And he's so obsessed with death that he goes to funerals for fun, apparently. And at one of these funerals, he meets this woman. She's 79, named Maude, who she's like the total opposite of him. She loves life, and she's one of these people that gets the most out of life. And the two of them strike up a friendship. And I think it's a really, really well done movie, just about, her showing him, what it's like to actually live, rather than, just be in a depressed funk all the time. And I guess the reason it's number one for me is because that was me. I went through a lot of deep depression and stuff, so I can relate to the movie. So that's why, it means a lot. That movie means a lot to me.
So you found an old lady to cling on to?
See, and this is why I didn't know if I wanted to pick it, because I knew that cheap jokes would be made at my expense over this.
I know what Justin's about to say, something about Toya. I know that.
No, but now you come to mention it, I could see her in a remake.
I should have known better. I should have picked something stupid.
No, but I think it's a great pick.
What's funny about Harold and Maude is that a lot of people love that film, but if you go and read a lot of the critics' reviews, critics bash the crap out of that movie.
No, I agree with Nathan. I think it's a great movie, and it's very, very quirky, and it's not really romance, is it? But it's like a type of romance, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's like you said, it's different. It's not like any other movie that you'll see.
Yeah, it's actually inspiring me to go and watch it again soon, actually, because I haven't seen it for a while. Is it on Blu-ray?
I'm not sure if it's on Blu-ray. I'm not. I saw it on DVD. I don't know if it's on Blu-ray or not.
Yeah, no, it's a great pick. And who directed it? Was it
Hal Ashby? I think.
No, I think so. Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Nathan. That's a great number one. Anything else you want to say about it?
Oh, no, that's it.
Excellent. Okay, well, here's my number one.
Here she is, divine as Dawn Davenport, a feisty young high school girl.
My parents are going to be real sorry if I don't get them cha-cha heels. Nice girls don't wear cha-cha heels. Give me those presents. I don't need to wear those ugly shoes. I told you not to wear them.
Yes, she had a lot of problems. And she found herself in big female trouble.
Well, I just wanted to tell you that I'm pregnant and I want money. Just because you got them big udders don't mean you're something special. It's hard being a loving mother. I give her free food.
Yes, John Waters' Female Trouble.
Wow. That's an unusual pick.
I got something for your face, motherfucker.
Why would that be an unusual pick, Joseph?
I did not expect that, but that's a good one. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. No, well, I do love John Waters' movies, and I think Female Trouble is probably my favourite of his films. I just find that his sense of humour in those films it really hits a chord. And I don't think Divine was ever better than she was in Female Trouble. And it's just got, it goes beyond. I mean, I love Pink Flamingos. Pink Flamingos is a great film, but it's kind of it has a level of competence, I kind of guess, filmmaking competence in Female Trouble, which brings it all together, but still with the shock and the humour and it's probably one of my most favourite scenes ever is the cha-cha heels or the non-cha-cha heels scene at Christmas. And having that, knocking over the Christmas tree on Ma and Pa, and stomping out because Divine didn't get cha-cha heels is just it's just fantastic. So yeah, I could watch that over and over and over again. And I don't know if I mentioned I met John Waters about a year ago, just at a Q&A, and I asked him how he would like to die if he was in a Final Destination movie, and I can't remember what he said now. He said something along the lines of his shoes catching fire or something bizarre. I didn't quite.
You mentioned it on one of the.
But yeah, I do love Female Trouble, and I love Serial Mom, and unfortunately John Waters, as much as I love him, went off the boil. And I watched Crybaby the other day, which I thought was, I think I might have mentioned in the last podcast, but that was not a good movie. He followed up with Serial Mom.
I love it.
I hate Crybaby.
Yeah, I love like Crybaby. We followed it up with Serial Mom, which I think is fantastic, and it's probably his last really good film.
I liked Pecker.
Pecker was good.
And A Dirty Shame.
You do like Pecker, huh?
Yeah.
What movie is it that John Waters directed where it's the woman that runs off with her really huge maid?
Dirty. No, what's it called? What's it called? Dirty. Oh. The one it's got the. I know the one you mean because it's got. God, what's it called? Filthy. No. Hold on one second. I'm going to go and look. Talk amongst yourselves.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Well, I've only. I think I said in the last podcast I've only recently seen Female Trouble for the first time. I remember seeing the trailer a lot in the 80s because it was on the front of a lot of Palace video releases. I remember Getting Out the Evil Dead and the trailers at the front were for Female Trouble and Basket Case, and I thought those two films looked really sinister and edgy and underground. I thought that was the ultimate sort of alternative cinema.
Was it A Dirty Shame?
It's Desperate Living.
Yes.
Desperate Living.
So,
that's it.
A Dirty Shame is one of the Bears and Tracy Ullman.
Yeah, I didn't think Dirty Shame was very good. I mean, I thought
I liked it.
It's all right, but it's not a patch on some of the older stuff.
What did you think of Pecker?
Pecker's great.
Furlong. Yeah.
Pecker's good, but I do love Pecker.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. But what did you think of Edith Massey?
Edith Massey's wonderful, isn't she?
I love her in Polyester.
She throws acid.
I worry that you work in an office, have children, celebrate wedding anniversaries. The world of the heterosexual is a sick and boring life.
Is there a film where she's Edith Massey is in kind of a crib and she's talking about an Eggman or something?
Pink Flamingos.
That's Pink Flamingos, is it?
Yeah.
And Pink Flamingos is the one where Divine eats something he shouldn't eat at the end. Isn't it?
That's awful.
That is disgusting.
Chunky Kit Kat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he picks up a chunky Kit Kat off the ground.
That's more like a Mars bar.
Yeah. Oh.
Deep fried.
Yeah. And there's that person with that amazing flexible bumhole as well. In Pink Flamingos, isn't there?
Yes. There is. Yes.
Elastic bumhole, kind of.
Yeah.
Only you could like films like that, Justin.
Yeah, it's Toy's finest hour, wasn't it?
I walked right into that one. I absolutely walked into that one. I don't... Go on.
Now you're mad because you couldn't. You don't have a comeback for it.
No. Well, you smell. There you go.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Thank you, Dorothy Parker. Right. Okay. Well, anyway, that's my number one, and I think we're already at the hour and a half mark, and we haven't actually done our feature presentation yet. So, I think maybe it may be time for us to regroup and get on to get to class. What do you reckon?
Yes,
let's do it.
Yeah.
It was just another ordinary, dull, and boring semester at Worley High.
Attention, faculty and students. This is Mr. Dante, your principal.
The classrooms were in disorder.
As of today, you're suspended.
Relationships were impossible.
Not until your grades improve.
And the teachers were insane. But this year was going to be different. Someone was going to teach a lesson no one would forget, ever.
By the way, Frankenstein's staring at you.
Get shocked every day he was in the hospital.
Every single day. How could they do that to him?
I like you, Paula. I really do. Leave Paula and me alone.
Are you telling me the truth?
I'm trying.
What is this? Survival class?
Please, everyone, stay calm. Kids are missing. A teacher's missing. We stay calm and we'll all be dead.
Help! Help! You understand English?
Was it a teenager in distress or a murderer in disguise?
Please don't kill me.
I'm the only teacher that you'll remember.
Donovan Leitch, Jill Schoelen, Brad Pitt, Roddy McDowell, and Martin Mull.
On the floor.
In this school, you don't die trying. You just die.
Get out of the school! Help!
Cutting class.
The school is closed.
High school can be murder. Just ask Paula. Her overprotective father disappears during a weekend hunting trip. She's being romantically pursued by a creepy classmate who recently graduated from a mental institution. Her jealous jock boyfriend is looking for any reason to release his juvenile rage. The lecherous school principal is after her tight student body. Her friends and teachers are rapidly falling victim to a silent, shadowy mass murderer. As the body count rises, Paula begins to suspect that any one of her reckless suitors could be the twisted killer. But unless she learns his identity soon, her high school education will quickly come to a very nasty end. And Cutting Class is a film I first saw during one of my 5-day rental binges from a local video shop. It's been about 10 or 15 years ago. Probably about 15 years ago. But to say I hated it would be quite the understatement, as I kind of found it to be really dull and completely lacking in blood and gore and all the stuff that makes those movies, what they are. But I don't know, something kind of compelled me to give it a second chance, and while I didn't do a complete 180, I started picking up on things I missed the first go-around. The compulsion to watch it struck several times after, and eventually I made that half-circle trip to where I actually loved the film. I can now say Cutting Class is one of my favorite late 80s offerings. Yeah, it lacks blood and gore, but it has a very unusual sense of humor about everything. School subjects kind of intersect with murder, and there's all sorts of juicy puns to be had. I also like that it feels like a made-for-TV after-school special with foul language. It also features what may very well be one of the greatest climaxes in all of slasher film history, with the chase through the school, a math equation turned deadly, science class mishaps, and a final battle in shop class that I really, really enjoyed. If there's a failing, it would have to be with the identity of the killer. Now, don't get me wrong, I liked the actor playing the killer and thought he did a suitably kooky job with, acting bonkers at the end, but the whodunit aspect was weak, and I thought it really could have only been one of two people, and then it felt like they went with the obvious choice rather than kind of throwing some kind of twist in there. I also didn't really care much for the kind of buffoon-style comedy with Martin Mull traipsing through the forest, but overall, with a lot of good humor and an against-type performance from Roddy McDowell playing a perverted principal, and a breezy tone, and even the Andy Preboy / Wall of Voodoo new wave soundtrack, how could I not give Cutting Class a passing grade? And how about you, Justin?
Well, we talked about this a little bit before the podcast. I almost didn't see Cutting Class because the version I'd got didn't work, and I sat down to watch it this morning. So I reverted back to my old VHS, sort of big box British VHS, and which, surprisingly, unless it for a film that was released in Britain at the end of the 80s, early 90s, it looked pretty gory. It didn't look like anything had been cut out of it, but yeah, I really enjoyed it actually. Surprisingly so. I didn't remember liking it that much before, but I thought that it was kind of it's kind of, although it's playing with exactly the same kind of things, it's playing with the cliches. It's actually kind of one of a kind. This kind of film. I think it's personally, I think it's a better pastiche of slasher movies and films like Return to Horror High, which are more of an obvious pastiche. And I don't hate Return to Horror High, but I thought this did a better job of doing a kind of pastiche without going to out and out comedy. And I thought it had some great scenes in it. I loved the scene where the cheerleader and her boyfriend are pulled. Well, she's pulled under the bleachers during a basketball game, and she thinks it's her boyfriend who's just been under there previously. But they both get murdered, and as their screams are drowned out by the cheers of the crowd. And I thought that was a really effective kind of slasher movie section. I mean, if I had a criticism, it would be that the slasher movie angle doesn't really get going until about halfway mark to any great in any great way. I thought I really liked Donovan Leitch in it. I thought he was really good, and Jill Sholin was great. Brad Pitt was good. You could tell he obviously had a future, but he was playing quite an obnoxious character. It was quite but they were all good, and I thought it was very, very well made as well. I liked Roddy McDowall again, playing against type, being this lecherous kind of sort of high school principal, when in real life he was gay, and he was but it's surprising that Jill Sholin was all the shots of her bending over and showing her knickers and stuff like that. I was surprised that not being prudish. I was surprised she did those kind of cheesecake shots in the film, but overall, I thought it was a lot of fun, especially the last 25 minutes, when you do find out who the killer is, and you have this chase around the school, like Joseph said. Those set pieces, there's kind of three of them really, with the kind of the ones you described, Joseph. I thought were really, really well done. Yes, the kind of really over the top scene right at the end where Brad Pitt gets his head in a vice. Which kind of it makes a nice companion piece with Gwyneth Paltrow's head in a box at the end of Seven. It kind of, I just thought it was really, really kind of well done, and it's just very, very quirky. And you said about the comedy aspect of this kind of bizarre comedy bit, which I'm sure we'll talk about all the way through the film. I didn't hate it, but I did think it was a bit odd. It seemed a little bit out of place, but yeah, Cutscene Class I think it's stood up very well for me this time, and it's I don't, although it's, like I said before, it's playing with conventions and the slasher movie, and it's playing very familiar things, but I can't really think of another film quite like it. Yeah, so that's, I'm sure I've got more to say on it, but that's my tuppence to start off with.
Yeah, I mean, I also, we're talking about the humor in the film. I like, a lot of the death scenes, because they have that kind of, irony and gallows humor. Like the art teacher, he gets shoved into a big kiln and he gets baked or broiled or whatever alive. And then you have that math teacher who, he's such a stickler for people paying attention in his class, and then at the end he can't solve the math problem. That's his undoing. I thought that was hilarious, actually. It's very humorous. I like when stuff like that. I think humor like that really works when they kind of underline character traits, and then it comes back to bite them in the ass. But how about you, Eric? What did you think of Cutting Class?
Yeah, like you said, when I saw this first, I didn't like it at all, and I'm actually watching the same version that Justin watched, because Justin was kind enough to do a baby Jesus on this VHS that he had, because it wasn't available over here. So, and as like you've said, the slasher element I don't think is very strong in the first half of the film, but I think the final 20 minutes are really good. The chase through the school and through the shop room, as you call it, I think, in the States. I don't think we have an equivalent over here. The quirky humour, which normally would bother me, I found quite interesting in this. I like the way that Roddy McDowall's character, for no apparent reason, sniffs a sock before he gives one of his sort of school announcements over the speakers. And there's, other
things is there's that great line which I'm going to use in everyday life now, where the janitor says, "Sorry, won't remove the skid marks." That had me chuckling, I have to say. The two male leads, like you said, the killer's reveal was it's kind of not interesting. I think it's probably deliberate on their part. They're playing, as Justin said, they're playing with the slasher conventions, and one of the slasher conventions is setting up somebody to be a really obvious killer and then it not being them. And I think with this, what they've done is they've set, and this is a spoiler alert, I suppose, they've set Dwight and Brian up as the two potential killers to such a degree that you think, okay, it's not going to be either one of them, it's going to be somebody else. But then, it turns out to be one of them. I think they're sort of mocking the genre, maybe, or having fun with the genre rather than mocking it, I suppose. And the film is very, very 80s, very late 80s. It reminded me a lot of Rush Week, actually, which we reviewed maybe 4 or 5 podcasts ago. It had that same feel. And I love the really, really overproduced guitar music because, in place of the traditional horror movie score, it has this really... I suppose cheesy. Like, and there's actually a great murder involving a trampoline and a flagpole, which is kind of similar to what Eli Roth did in the Thanksgiving trailer for Grindhouse.
I'm sure he got from cutting class.
It's probably the most effective kill scene in the film. It's great fun, but it's scored with that. It's sort of almost a patriotic Sousa march done on an electric guitar. It's great fun. As everyone has said, obviously, one of the great things about watching a film like Cutting Class is seeing, a sort of household name now in one of his very early roles before he was famous. And watching Brad Pitt it's really interesting because I love watching things like Leprechaun with Jennifer Aniston or Critters 3 with Leonardo DiCaprio. I think it adds an extra layer of entertainment seeing these big Hollywood stars in, I suppose, slumming it in most people's eyes in films like this. So I have to say I did really enjoy it. As a slasher film, it does have a very different feel. But I think the last 20 minutes are certainly on a par with any decent slasher film from the era. So I did enjoy it.
Woohoo! And I know you like it, Nathan, but give us your 2 cents.
Well, I definitely love it. And I like that music that plays when she needs the killer. Remember? And towards the end, she needs the killer. And that music plays. Yeah, I like that music. And, they mentioned the chase scene at the school. That's probably the best scene in the movie for me. I think my biggest complaint about the movie is I thought her friend, she died like really early. I kind of thought she should have lasted a little longer, I guess.
She was great fun. I thought.
Yeah, she was. And I thought it was a shame they killed her off so quickly. But like Justin said, it was a great scene. And I especially love the scene later when the janitor's mopping up and he's mopping up the blood from, I guess, the kill.
And all the popcorn.
And when I saw that first, I thought it was like brain matter or something, but then I realized, it's popcorn.
I like how this guy is so fried that he doesn't really even think to question why there's a big, huge pool of blood that he's mopping up. Because he sniffs the mop and you can tell he knows it's blood, but he just doesn't really do anything about it.
Well, his only concern is the skid marks.
Yeah. Yes. Well, he's
the custodian of their fucking destiny.
Yeah, he's the archetypical creepy janitor, isn't he? And he turns up right at the end, doesn't he?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then says something lecherous
to... What is this, survival class?
Yeah.
God, the dialogue in that movie is ridiculous. Like, when she finally decides, kills the killer, she's like, no more fucking around with my emotions. I'm like, what? I mean, that's what you're mad about? Not that he, murdered all your friends or anything.
Mm-hmm. I love the killer
ending, though. Oh, yeah, the killer speech is great.
So
the only other thing I was going to say... Oh, sorry, Joseph. I just want to say that the final ending with the "I hope you're not cutting class" line was so unbelievably ridiculous.
Not to mention, because it was Saturday, so they shouldn't be in school anyway.
Well, mind you, this is because if you haven't seen the film, right at the beginning, Jill Schoelen's father goes hunting, and the killer shoots him with a arrow, and he falls over. You think he's dead for a little bit, but then you find out he's not dead. And when in possibly the most ridiculous scene of the whole film, the whole class from the school, including the potential killer, Jill Schoelen and Donovan Leitch, Brad Pitt, they all go to this nature hike, and they're walking past her father lying in the reeds, going, "Help, help, and nobody hears him. And
Oh, no,
he
they
manages.
do hear him, but
They think it's a frog.
bullfrog.
Well, they
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
it's
they
a
think it's a
bullfrog, don't
bullfrog.
they? But then he kind of nobody. He just basically he walks all the way home. One, it's ridiculous that the cast would go to where the exact place where he's been hunting, and also it's ridiculous that he doesn't bump into a single person walking back there until he gets home. Right at the end of the movie, it's just kind of like, but it's just part of the quirky charm of the film, I kind of guess. And again, you know, it's just in the same way as there'll never be an early 80s, there'll never be a late 80s. And again, this is very, I mean, the guitar solo stuff was starting to grate on me a little bit. You know, I just had this vision, I just kind of back of mind, I had this vision of some horrible hairy hair metal person standing off camera, just really guitar wankery while they're running down the, you know, it was, you know,
somebody from Blood Tracks, perhaps.
Yes, possibly someone from Blood Tracks. I love the shot, the scene where they break into school and Donovan Leitch is behind the water cooler for no good reason.
No, how does he get? He gets in all these places. He's so omniscient or omnipotent. He just shows up in these weird places, and how does he get there without people noticing him?
I thought it was kind of. I love the scene at the end where he goes. The killer says to Joel Sholin, "Have you ever felt my tingle?"
Yeah,
it's, you know, it's just. I mean, it is really over the top. It's probably one of the most over the top kind of climactic fight scenes.
Last night I was a perfect gentleman. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, we can get into some spoiler territories, but the killer turns out to be Donovan Leitch's character, Brian Woods. I loved his whole speech. It makes no sense. He's like, how could I kill in the past or the present or change the course of history forever? And he's like, you're a Yankee Doodle dandy. You too must kill or die. What does that mean? He talking about? I don't know. I
thought it was some kind of pop culture reference that was uniquely American, and that's why I didn't get it. But obviously,
I don't know. I have no idea what it means.
I do like the scene, and Justin, you probably will get this reference, but I don't know if Nathan and Joseph will. There's a scene where Donovan, I got given out today for calling him Donovan. There's no U in that word. Donovan Leitch. There's a scene where he's creeping up on Jill Sholin as she's undressing, and you see the shadow of his hands sort of caressing her body. It reminded me very much of the opening sequence to Armchair Thriller, which you were talking about on Facebook recently. I just thought that was quite an effective sequence as well.
No, that was.
As you said, the film is quite well made.
Yeah, I think, you know, I really liked. I thought that was very clever, and also I did quite like the way that you kind of expect Donovan Leitch, like you said, Erik, to be the killer, because he's set up to be the killer, and then he is the killer. But they use a little bit of clever misdirection when Donovan Leitch fingers Brad Pitt's ring, doesn't he?
He does finger his ring. Yeah.
Yes,
that's true.
What? Well, it's true, isn't it?
It's true.
Come on, though. You know what you're doing there.
No.
Yeah, Brad Pitt photocopied his ring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he had some good one-liners at the end. I liked when he said, "What was it? You two make such a cute couple. I'd like to see more of you over there and over there," because he has that. They're in the shop with all the power tools.
Like one twist right, I make it tight. Twist it back, does it make bones crack? I told you it was a tight friendship. Now I'm going to make it even tighter, and that does not sound right when you listen to that out of context.
Righty tighty and
lefty loosey.
Lefty loosey. Yeah.
That whole scene where they're under the car and they're fixing the brakes, he's like, that scene can be taken out of context as well. He's like, I haven't done this in a long time. He's like, yeah, well, not since we were kids. Oh, come on, we were just fooling around then.
Does anyone think it might have been a slightly more engaging film if they had made Brad Pitt's character a bit more likeable? Because he is, as Justin was saying, he's a bit of an obnoxious jock. And there are scenes where it looks like he might be able to make friends with Brian, but it never sort of comes to pass.
Well, there's that one scene where he's like, he was shocked every day in the hospital, and he kind of has that remorse, like, how could they do that to him? And then when they're under the car and they're kind of reminiscing about old times, but then he just reverts back to his
I know, and then there's that scene where he finds out that Brian never squealed on him when they ask him who taught him to cut brakes in the car. And he says he wouldn't betray a friend or something. It was obviously Dwight who showed him how to do it. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there are nice touches like that. It's just a shame they didn't lead, somewhere else.
Yeah, it's like he's kind of obnoxious, but at the same time he's a little likable. So it's not like you can kind of sympathize with him.
He's not on the same level as I can never remember what's the character's name in The Burning. Glazer, yeah.
Yeah.
Like he has to be the epitome of well, I'm sure there's probably worse in more recent slashers, but
yeah, but another scene,
one-dimensional villain.
Yeah.
Another scene I like is when Brian is chasing Dwight and Paula around the school, and they go into the science class, and Dwight tries to do that whole sodium and water thing to make an explosion. And he throws it, and it lands in the puddle of water, and Donovan Leitch is just standing there. He's like, "Nice try, Dwight, but that wasn't sodium. That was just a rock." He's like, "Nice try, though." And then the way he just kind of picks up his axe, like, "All right, back to it. Time to start chasing them again." Like it's almost like an interlude. I like the way they did it. It's kind of funny.
Well, it's quite a nice, the irony, wasn't it? That the fact that he didn't mean to kill his father, and that's the reason he got put in an asylum. And it turns out Brad Pitt was actually more to blame, wasn't he, really, for that? But he decided even though he wasn't really a killer, if he was being painted as a killer, he might as well be the best killer he could.
Yeah, I love that. Might as well be the best at my job.
Yeah. And so that was a kind of the irony, wasn't it, that he was, although he wasn't really a killer, because he'd been painted as a killer, then he thought, well, I might as well just be the best I can. And I love again that the scene in the maths room, and we have to choose which door to go through. And it's even on that tape, the one we saw, Erik. I mean, I hadn't seen the uncut version. But it's surprisingly gory, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Although the axe does wobble a bit, it looks suspiciously like he's just holding it against his head.
Yes, it does. Yes. But there's
the Republic video version we have wasn't very gory at all. I mean, maybe yours is uncut.
Compared to what we would have got in the late 80s, it has a bit of gore. Like you can see that the guy's throat being slit under the bleachers and the axe in the head. Like there isn't a lot of gore in it at all, to be honest.
It's quite a lot of. It goes on for quite a long time, doesn't it? The throat slit under the.
Yeah,
surprisingly,
I know, yeah.
For about 5-10 seconds, you see blood gurgling, and
Although
also
I did have a tracking problem at that stage.
Yeah, no, I did as well. So, but I obviously same tape, but when they kill the maths teacher, well, the maths teacher gets hit twice with the axe, and then you see him hold the axe embedded in his head, and he's holding it there. So is that the same as the one you saw?
Yeah, that's the same in the American version.
So it's probably exactly the same. It's just that back then, like I said, that it would have been usually would have been edited, because something like Intruder, which was probably released around about the same time, had pretty much every gore shot cut out of it. It's a good film. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that we haven't.
I just like the implication that basically this movie is telling you, pay attention in school and you won't get killed by some psycho, because everything kind of reverts back to math class, science class, shop class. Pay attention to your principal. Your guidance counselor has a few words. You should listen to her.
I mean,
but even if the math teacher would have gotten the question right, would he have let them live?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
He would have had a chance maybe as escaping, but I don't think he would have survived.
I like the way he panics and can't do the math problem.
I am not prepared.
Yes.
I like the fact it's one of the few slasher movies where the killer kills teachers, doesn't he, as well as students. I really like Nancy Fish, who was the deputy.
Mrs. Connacht.
Yeah, she's in Exorcist 3, isn't she? Who's, around us, well, a little bit later. She's a great character actress. And Roddy McDowall was very good. Disappointing that he didn't die, or he just
kind of disappears.
He just disappeared, doesn't he?
Because when they're they're on the stage and they're reading about Brian, he's in the background. He's wearing that powdered wig, and he's like, "What are you doing back here?" And then he just disappears, and you never hear from him again.
Yeah, which is a shame, isn't it? Because I thought they could have at least either killed him or sort of had him turn up at the end or something. But
I kind of wonder if maybe they had him for only like a small period of a small window, and then they couldn't get him back, and that's why
I imagine he's probably the most expensive actor, wasn't he? He was the most recognisable name, I kind of guess, at the time, because Donovan Leitch was obviously. I mean, we'll get onto a little bit of the background, but Brad Pitt wasn't famous at that point, was he?
No, that was actually one of his first movies.
He had been in Dallas, though, hadn't he? At this stage, was he a regular in Dallas, or was he just a guest star?
I don't know. I know because I mean, I've got a little bit of background about the film, not a great deal, but I mean, Joseph, did you want to talk a little bit about? Have you got any background information?
Yeah, I have a few things. I'm sure you've probably got the same ones, but of course we know Brad Pitt went on to superstar, and that's no big secret. But the director,
what was he in?
Some movie about something that happened.
Right.
Something that happened, or he was in some movie about something.
Oh, I think I saw that.
Yeah, pretty good movie. But the director, Rospo Pallenberg, he was an uncredited writer on one of Eric's favorite movies, Exorcist II: The Heretic.
Woo!
And the writer, Steve Slavkin, he went on to create a TV show that at least Nathan and I are aware of, Salute Your Shorts. He was also the disembodied voice of Dr. Khan, the camp owner in Salute Your Shorts, with the Ben Stein-esque, "This is Dr. Khan," monotone. So that guy is actually the guy that wrote Cutting Class, Nathan.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't know that.
And, of course, Donovan Leitch is the son of the famous pop singer Donovan, famous for "They Call Me Mellow Yellow." And he's the brother of actress Ione Skye, who was obviously the object of John Cusack's affections on Say Anything. And in some circles, it was released as a sequel to Slaughter High. Mostly in Germany, because it's got the German title for Slaughter High, which is Todesparty, and it has the number 2 after. But I don't think it was released in America or in the United Kingdom or anything like that as Slaughter High 2, but I could be wrong. And that's all I have on it. What about you guys, Justin?
Well, it's just funny you should mention about the. I thought at the end of the film, the music that played out over the end credits sounded quite similar to the Slaughter High music. But also
that was Andrew Preboy. He was from Wall of Voodoo. I don't know if that was in Slaughter High or not.
Singing Man Talk.
Yeah, Man Talk.
Yeah. Well, no, there was some. Maybe it was the incidental music at the end that sounded quite similar when I think before it kicked into the song. But also the video cover they use in the UK was the image of the skull holding the apple, which I think they used for Slaughter High in the States.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's it.
And they were both released in the UK on video by Vestron. So there was some connection. Apart from that, there wasn't any. But there was that kind of overlap. The information I've got is not a lot, but it seems like it was actually made in the fall of 1987, and on a $2 million budget, which back then is pretty sizable for teen slasher movie. I don't think, to the best of my knowledge, it never got cinema release in the States, did it?
No,
I think it went straight to video. So basically, it didn't do anything. But the most intriguing bit of information I found about it was that it was being pre-sold by Film Ventures International with a co-production called The Prank. But I have not found any information about a film called The Prank. And it was a co-production, so it was made at the same time, or it was due to be made at the same time. So I couldn't find any other information about it at all. But there was in the Variety archives, they were talking about it being sold with a co-production, and named The Prank. And of course, I don't know what that was, but the fact is, The Prank sounds exactly like a title you would give to a slasher movie. So.
And if it's a co-production, then chances are that it was a slasher in the making or something. Now I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so I couldn't find any other information about it at all. So that was that. So I mean, to be honest, that's the the long and short of it. Really, there's not a great deal else. I mean, it certainly didn't get a cinema release in this country, and by the look of it, it was it was obviously filmed late '87, which was, I think Brad Pitt didn't make any films or didn't do his career start in '87, so that would kind of make sense.
Yeah, and now that you mention it, it doesn't really have like a 1989 look to it. It has almost 1987, 88 kind of look to it.
Yeah, well, all the music at the end is credited as is all '88. The music, so I imagine it was shot in tail end of '87, then edited and cut together in the beginning of '88, and then sat on the shelf until it got released in '89. And also, right at the end of the film, the copyright date is '88 on the film, not '89. So '89 is just the time when it got released to video. But I kind of guess at that point in the late 80s, there wasn't a lot of horror films, certainly a lot of slasher films playing at the cinema. So
yeah, it has that kind of Bill and Ted kind of Excellent Adventure kind of attire, clothing attire type thing. Everybody wearing kind of loose T-shirts and having stuff tied around their waist.
I mean, does anyone know what Brad Pitt thinks of the film now? Has he ever spoken about it?
I read an interview where someone asked him about Cutting Class, and his quote was that you have to start somewhere.
Right. Okay.
So he didn't diss it, but he didn't praise it either.
He did kind of diss it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, has anyone else got any background?
Well, I just looking at the BBFC website here, it was released uncut in the UK, so that version we saw, Justin, was uncut.
Okay.
It was certified in April 1989. The only other information I really have is that Donovan Leitch has an interesting family history, as well as being the brother of Ione Skye. He was also the ex-brother-in-law of Adam Horovitz from Beastie Boys and Sean Ryder from the Happy Mondays.
Really?
Yeah, ex-brother-in-law of Sean Ryder.
Who was Sean Ryder?
He was also in a new wave group called Nancy Boy.
Yes.
Who was Sean Ryder married to?
I don't know. They probably their wives might have been sisters or something, or
right.
I don't know why. It doesn't explain the family connection. It just says he was the ex-brother-in-law of Sean Ryder.
Well, Donovan Leitch is British, isn't he? He was born in.
He is, yeah.
And so's Roddy McDowall as well. He was born in London.
And Donovan Leitch has a great scene in one of my favourite 80s films, the remake of The Blob. He is the Blob.
Yeah, he plays the Steve McQueen character.
Is he the... No, that's...
No,
is
that's...
that not...
he plays the Steve McQueen character, and he gets killed. That's the twist of The Blob.
Oh, I see. Because you see, believe it or not, I've never seen the original Blob. So.
I thought the main guy was played by Matt Dillon's brother.
Yeah, it is Kevin Dillon, but he's not playing the Steve McQueen character.
Oh, right.
In the original, Steve McQueen's the hero. Donovan Leitch is playing the pretty much the same type of character as Steve McQueen in the original, but he ends up getting killed.
He gets killed after about 20 minutes, yeah.
Okay. I'd like to. That's another film I've not seen in a long time. The Blob remake. Wasn't our friend of the show, Rob Zombie, was going to remake The Blob, wasn't he? But without the Blob.
It's going to be called The Blob.
Well, that's what I heard. He wanted to remake The Blob, but not actually have a blob in it.
Invades a trailer park.
Yes.
Small favors.
So I wonder what Lords of Salem is going to be like. Anyway, it looks. I'm not sure it'll be awful, but. But anyway, sorry. Back to Cutting Class. Any other trivia?
No, just as what Joseph had said about Wall of Voodoo doing sort of the majority of the soundtrack.
It was mostly Andrew Preboy who was in Wall of Voodoo. Actually, I don't think Wall of Voodoo actually has any songs in it.
According to the IMDb, they do. They have 3 songs: "Guys Like Girls," "For Love," and "Nearer to Morning." All performed
in
by
the
Wall
credits. It just says Andrew Preboy.
Oh, does it? Okay. Well, we know IMDb isn't that. But Wall of Voodoo did produce the wonderful Stan Ridgway, who brought out that great song "Camouflage." Do you remember that one, Justin?
No.
Do you remember Camouflage? 1986.
I actually like Andrew Preboy. I actually like his cover of "Tomorrow Windy" by Concrete Blonde better than the Concrete Blonde version.
Never heard the song. Never heard of the band.
Never heard of Concrete Blonde?
No.
I've heard of Concrete Blonde.
Have you?
Yeah.
No.
Didn't they do what's their famous song?
They did "Darkening of the Light." They did what's that song called? "Joey," and they did "Tomorrow Windy."
No, maybe I'm thinking of someone else. But can I ask a question? The one thing I didn't understand, and maybe I just, they were saying about him being a cannibal in the film. Was that just a joke, or? Cause
I think she was just joking.
Right, okay. Because I was wondering, I thought it would have been a bit strange if his father had died in a car crash and then he ran over and ate bits of him. That would have been a bit strange. Well,
although I agree with Brad Pitt, I would have ate Colleen's breasts as well.
Ew.
Oh, Joseph.
That's degrading to women.
Yeah, put them away, love.
Well, I'm a very degrading person.
Yes, indeed. Well, do you have anything else to say about Cutting Class before we cut off and go to feedback?
It's underrated. I mean, a lot of people think it's kind of dull and goreless, but I think it has a great sense of humor, and I think it's a lot of fun.
Okay, well, if you, you know, I would agree with that. What about you, Nathan? Any final words?
I agree with what you all have said.
Thank you. What about you, Erik? And just before we say, you're having we had a couple of microphone issues, just in case people wondered why.
Having a microphone meltdown.
Yes, why Erik sounds like he's in a
tin can.
In a tin can.
Yeah, next time I'll bring my big blue one with me.
Yes.
I'm actually surprised. I mean, I knew Nathan liked the film, and I figured Erik would like it, but for some reason, I figured Justin would be like, I didn't like it. I thought he would kind of liken it to like Island of Blood or something.
Oh God, it's much better than Island of Blood.
Yeah.
A lot better.
And I was going to say, arguably, I mean, you three might disagree with me, but since we were talking about how it was sold as a sequel to Slaughter High, I think it's infinitely better than Slaughter High, but that's just my opinion.
I prefer Slaughter High, I think.
I prefer Slaughter High, but I do really like the last 25 minutes of it. Really kind of, you know, is probably better than some of the stuff in Slaughter High, but Slaughter High is a better overall. You know, it's a slasher movie all the way through, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas Cutting Class is a kind of a quirky comedy drama. You know, love triangle, but whatever, kitchen sink thing. Where until the last half of it, and intermittent, they throw in a few murders, but it does turn into a fantastic slasher movie in the last 25 minutes. But but overall, I think Slaughter High, for all its faults, is a more consistent slasher movie. Would be my opinion. So. Right, well, shall we move on to feedback?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Well, I'll tell you, before we do that, we shall read out some contact details of how to get in touch with the show.
Our voicemail lines are open at 858-233-9281. You can contact us directly via email at the.hysteria.continues@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Hysteria Continues /Hysteria-Lives and /The Body Count Continues. We're also on Twitter. That's twitter.com/THC_podcast. You can visit Justin's website, The Hysteria Lives, at hysteria-lives.co.uk. My website, The Body Count Continues, at the-bodycount-continues.com. And Nathan's Blog Talk Radio show at blogtalkradio.com/the-axe-to-grind-show. That is AXE, not AX. Finally, show your support of the show by purchasing a t-shirt at cafepress.com/The Hysteria Continues. And we thank you so much for listening.
Okay, and we're back, and I don't know how much feedback you guys have. I mean, I have quite a bit, but yeah.
Good Lord. Good Lord,
I'm
why?
just saying, like, there are so many different ways to contact us regarding this show.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, we got something everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just the way it goes, I guess.
Well,
that's what happens when you get famous. People want to know how to contact you, especially you, Nathan, who your biggest supporter has sent our first feedback. So let me just justify his love for you. This is from Brett Roberts again, and he says, "Hello again, gentlemen. Thank you for reading my feedback again on your recent The Prowler episode. Although I did feel the enthusiasm was not there. Perhaps I've said all that needs to be said about penises and we should just move on?" I would agree there. Or perhaps Joseph is just not the person to read my feedback. Sorry, Joseph, I do still love you. Well, here's some random crap for you guys to read on your next show. The Prowler. I just don't like it. I'm sorry, guys, but it took me several attempts to get through it, and I just found it so dreadfully boring. How many scenes of people wandering through houses can you put in one movie? Interestingly, I find myself drifting into the same catatonic state when watching Friday the 13th, the final chapter, another Joseph Zito film. Perhaps there's just something about this man's directorial style that puts me to sleep. As with the final chapter, the only positive thing I could say about The Prowler was Savini's effects, which were truly incredible. All the rest was boring. And I guess since we've already done an episode on The Prowler, we'd kind of disagree there.
And I'd have to disagree on Friday the 13th, the final chapter as well. I think it's a great movie.
Oh yeah, me too. But he also says, I don't know if you gentlemen were alive in the 80s, and yes, we were. But I'm going to assume that you were. I was not. So I'm guessing he was born in the 90s, which makes me feel really old. But anyway, he says...
I was very, very young in the 80s, though, so I don't remember them.
But anyway, he says, in that case, I was wondering if any of you enjoyed the nighttime soap classics Dallas or Knots Landing, or perhaps both. If so, which show did you prefer? I'm currently trying to get my brother into Knots Landing, but it's a bit of a struggle getting through the rocky and kind of super boring first 2 seasons, but I feel it's totally worth it to get to the Majestic series. As a whole, it has to be one of the most perfect shows ever created, but you just have to hold on for seasons 1 and 2. This is different from Dallas, which starts out pretty much awesome and then gets really bad around 1985 when Pam takes a season-long nap. So anyway, did any of you enjoy either of these series? And to answer myself, I was forced to watch Dallas, and I did like it for what it was. And I watched a few episodes of Knots Landing, but I couldn't remember much about it.
Well, I watched, I'm old enough to remember Dallas being massive, and especially the Who Shot JR cliffhanger.
Oh, I remember that. That was a craze and a half over here.
It really was, wasn't it? And I remember seeing on TV the shots of the footage being brought into Britain under armed guard to say who had shot JR, and they're all like mugs and T-shirts, and people got tattoos and all sorts of stuff like that. So I remember it being really big. And Knots Landing, I did watch Knots Landing, but it didn't leave a huge impression on me. And was it a daytime thing? I can't remember, but yeah, Dallas definitely. I remember being massive, whereas Knots Landing was more of just a spin-off, wasn't it, of Dallas?
Yeah.
I remember in the mid-'80s when I was in school, that whole Who Shot JR thing was famous. It was kind of a craze, and everybody at school was talking about it, and they were like, who shot JR? And then they'd make like little gun things out of their hands, and they'd point at you and go, I shot JR, and I always thought that was annoying.
Yes.
Well, yes, it sounds annoying.
It is annoying.
I didn't watch Dallas, never got into it. I did watch Dynasty, which I adored. And I did watch Knots Landing. But Knots Landing, for me, didn't get really good until Donna Mills came on the scene as the really bitchy Abby. Like, I loved her character. She was so deliciously evil.
Mm-hmm. I didn't watch Dallas either, but I do remember when I'd been in primary school, and lots of my schoolmates were watching it, and I remember our teacher saying, I think it's good now that you're watching Dallas, because it gives you a real insight into real life. And looking back, I can't help but laugh at that comment. I am a big fan of Knots Landing, though, I have to say. There's a great episode in season 3 that a friend of mine has a copy of, where Valine and all the women from Knots Landing go to a haunted house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it plays out kind of like The Haunting, because it stars Judy Harris, isn't it? Is her name?
Okay.
Who was in the original? She was in the original Haunting, and she plays Valiant's mother in Knots Landing. And it's incredibly stupid, but wildly entertaining. And on Irish television, actually, we used to get Knots Landing, shown in the middle of the night. So I'd record it up until New Year's Eve of last year, 2011, when the contract ran out and they can't show anymore. So they left us with the cliffhanger from, I think it's season 6 or 7, where it's the series where Valine's babies are kidnapped. Do you remember that one, Nathan?
Yes, I remember that one.
And then the very last episode they showed on New Year's Eve was where they find the babies, but you don't see what happens then. And it's like, oh. Because you can only get seasons 1 and 2 on DVD.
Right.
But yeah, I did watch Knots Landing, and I did thoroughly enjoy it. Because it was... I didn't like the bits where they were talking about business, but when everyone was backstabbing each other and sleeping with everyone else, that was the bits I enjoyed.
Well, there you go.
But anyway, he says, what do you think the biggest come down from one movie in a series to another? I guess he's asking, what do you think is the biggest come down from one movie? Yeah, okay. I'm thinking of something like going from Halloween 2 to Halloween 4. and I think Eric would agree there. For the sake of the fact that it kind of doesn't count, I will just exclude Halloween 3 from this example. For me, a big one would be the leap from Friday the 13th 6, Jason Lives, to the dreadfully boring The New Blood with Laura Park Lincoln from Knots Landing. What a dreadful bore that latter movie is, and I would have to disagree there. I actually liked The New Blood a lot.
Yeah, I would
disagree thoroughly.
I don't like Part 7 that much, but I don't think it's that big a drop from Part 6, to be honest.
I would say it's a bigger drop from Part 4 to Part 5, if I'm honest.
No,
I think Part 7
many times.
I think Part 8 to Part 9 is the biggest drop.
Oh,
I'd say Part 7 to Part 8 would be a big drop, because 7
I can tolerate 8. I cannot tolerate 9.
Okay. But to answer his question, I think I already answered it when we did the recently seen. I'd say Cube. The first Cube is so good, and then the Cube 2 Hypercube is just so dreadful, and then Cube 0 is even worse than Cube 2. So that's like a massive drop. And then I'd go another one more modern would be Hostel. I love the first Hostel, and I think Hostel 2 was just crap.
Well, I think we discussed this as well. A lot of us think that Part 2 is slightly better.
I don't know if I'll ever think Part 2 is better, but I really want to watch 2 again. You guys are making me want to rewatch it. Maybe I'll feel differently this time.
Well, the biggest drop for me would probably from I Still Know What You Did Last Summer to I Always Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
That was a massive drop in quality, even though a lot of people
I'm really surprised you haven't picked I Still Know yet.
Well, I'm sure that will come.
Well, one for me would probably, it's not slasher, but the drop from Hellraiser 2 to Hellraiser 3 I thought was quite dramatic, and then from Hellraiser 3 to Hellraiser
no, I think Hellraiser 3 is better than 2.
Oh, I didn't like Hellraiser 3 at all.
I think Hellraiser 3 is so fun. It's so silly and over the top. That's why I like it.
Yeah, but I like the more sort of serious, pretentious style of the first two, I have to say.
Yeah, you would. You pretentious.
Yeah.
But,
So, is that everything from Brett, or is he...
No, he's got a few more things. He says, would you consider Carrie a slasher film? And if so, would you do a review of it? I'm going to go ahead and answer him now. That I'd say no.
No. I'm sure Justin might, though.
Yeah.
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
He says, this might be hard to argue since I personally view the film as more of a teenage drama and tragedy. The murder doesn't start until over 60 minutes into it. Most of it is set up, but it's so good, and I would like to hear your thoughts on it. And I think we've discussed Carrie maybe in like a recently seen or a top 3 at one point, haven't we?
I think that, yeah, because myself and Nathan said we always want the ending to finish differently. We want a happy ending.
Yeah, and I always said that I like Carrie, but it's not a movie I can watch because it's so depressing and melancholy that it's not a very fun movie to watch.
I really like it. The reason I think you couldn't classify it as a slasher movie, partly, because obviously there are flying knives and things like that, but is that the murders all happen at once, and you rarely have a slasher movie where you have mass murder or loads of people dying at the same time. And also, Carrie never really stalks anyone, does she? There's no kind of there's not that in there. But have you seen the photos of the remake with Julianne Moore playing the mother, the Pippa Laurie character, and is it Chloe Moretz playing Sissy Spacek's character, which is strange because she's obviously a very pretty girl, isn't she? And it's kind of, I'm not quite sure. Sissy Spacek had was beautiful, but in an ugly way, wasn't she? Well, not an ugly way, but an unusual way.
Yeah.
She was. So she would look very plain, but she could become beautiful. Whereas, is it Chloe? I can't remember. Chloe Moretz. She's obviously. I can't see how she'll play an ugly character to start off with. The only thing that I'm interested in seeing in the remake, partly, is that it's sticking to the book, and the ending where Carrie destroys the town, which they didn't do in the 76 version, possibly because of budgetary constraints. But I think I did read Carrie back in probably the early 80s. I don't remember the ending at all, but from what I understand, she does go around the town destroying it, doesn't she?
She does, yeah.
Yeah, and so that would be quite interesting to see in a big budget kind of remake. But I do love Carrie, and I've always wanted to get. There's a absolutely beautiful Japanese poster for the film, which has got like Carrie silhouetted in front of massive flames, which is the poster I always wanted to get. But I like the film a lot.
kind of has a segue here. He says, on that note, are any of you guys readers of Stephen King? The Stand is my favorite book, though I would argue the original 1978 edition is better than the uncut 1990 edition. And that's the only time I'd say the cut version is better than the uncut. What is your favorite book of his? And to answer, I'm not a huge Stephen King fan. I tend to like the movie adaptations more than I like his books because I find he's a little long-winded. He's very in love with, explaining what's going on in a scene, and that's just not really me. I don't like the whole kind of didactic, kind of over-expository kind of what's going on. I like kind of the subtle stuff. So there's my answer.
I don't like a whole chapter describing a table.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm exaggerating, but still, I mean, that he describes stuff that specifically, and I'm like, I don't need that much description. Just call it a table, and let's move forward with the storyline. But that being said, that being said, his ideas are fantastic. Like, I love his ideas. I just wish they were in like a more better edited book, I guess.
Yeah, it's like Stephen King. I don't think he means to, it's almost like he's being insulting to people's intelligence. Like he has to explain, and I don't think he's necessarily trying to do that. When he just keeps explaining things over and over, you're like, okay, we get the point, move on.
I mean, what do you think, Erik? Are you a fan of his?
I've never read a Stephen King novel.
Oh, really?
I've read some. I think I've read some short stories. The short story compilation, Skeleton Crew, I think it was called. I think I've read that, but I haven't read any of his novels. Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't say I was a massive fan of Stephen King, but I read his latest book, which was 11/22/63, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. It was one of the most enjoyable reads I've ever had, and it's huge. It's a massive book. It's absolutely, it's like a huge doorstop. And if you don't know, it's a kind of story of a man who finds a portal, time travel, and he goes back to the early 60s, and it builds up to he goes. It's about 3 years before Kennedy's assassinated, and it's a whole build of having to live through this time to try and stop Kennedy being assassinated, and all of the unexpected consequences. And it's just like it's really funny book. It's really touching. It's got this lovely romance through it. It's very exciting. And then he meets some of the characters from It, which is another book which I absolutely loved. But I'm not. Apart from that, I'm not a massive Stephen King fan. I don't read any of his Dark Tower books or anything like that. They haven't really interested me. But I also read is it All Dark No Stars, which is his kind of 3 novella ones, which again was really, really good. So I think Stephen King's great. So I would say I'm a casual fan of his, but his latest book I think is absolutely brilliant. It'll make a great film as well, and very long-winded. But my personal preference is I quite like that. So each to their own.
He's definitely a good writer. He's just not my style, I don't think.
He did a really good job with Gerald's Game. That book isn't long-winded, and it was a very quick read for me, and it's actually a really, really good book. I mean, the whole book is a woman that's like handcuffed to a bed, and she can't get free, and that's the whole book. But he makes it interesting throughout the whole book.
But anyway, he says, that's about it. That's all I've got for now. I think I deserve praise for writing an entire email without one mention of penises. Oops.
Well,
please keep up the good work, and I will keep listening, and I will keep writing in. You love your friend, Brett Roberts.
Well, thank you very much, Brett. And thank you for keeping it clean. As you know, this show is squeaky clean.
Yeah.
So.
Cock, pussy, ass, shit.
Oh. My goodness. We haven't had one of these for a while.
Oh, it's been forever. Wow.
Yes. So you deserve that.
We need a swear jar.
Have we got... shall I go next? I've got a couple of emails from Terry from Belgium. And I'll read out, I'll summarise some because there's quite a lot, he goes into quite a lot of things here, but just to say, as always, I liked your podcasts a lot. Always fun, informative, entertaining. I was, let's say, happy to listen to your podcast devoted to one of Nathan's favourites, Don't Go Into the Woods. A very, very bad film, but somehow I like it a lot. Maybe it's due to my tolerance to very bad movies. The body count is very high. The dialogue are uber cheesy, Dick, as in the character Dick. The music is quite surprising. The acting level is terrible, but I do not know why I find this slash movie watchable. But it's by no stretch, as you say, Justin, a good movie. Now, About a Night to Dismember, I've not seen the movie yet, but it seems to be one of the worst slash movies you reviewed. You said it was this kind of it was a kind of artwork, and hey, makes me want to see it. Although I know the four of you do know what a good movie is. I was surprised to hear the trailer of her film was made of unseen footage, and obviously to sell the movie or something. Hey, it reminds me the Italian wage seller movie. I mean, especially during the late 1970s and the 80s. They were like craftsmen, not sure the spelling, sorry, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, the film is hypnotic, you said, and this makes me want to see it. Like the audio commentary part 2, man, it was unexpected, LOL. A very good audio commentary is one from Starship Troopers with Verhoeven, although it's not a slasher movie, and Starship Troopers I think is a great film. I remember it was the first DVD I ever bought, actually, many, many years ago. But this, controversially, Terry says, I do not know why you dislike zombies versions of Halloween 1 and 2. I mean, they're certainly superior to the average slasher movies from the 2000s. The first part of Halloween 1 is interesting, and H2 is brutal, violent, especially the girl being slaughtered in the go-go bar. However, I can understand some scenes are not necessary at all, like the dream sequence with Sherry Moon on a white horse, for instance. And we do not care about the heroine. I mean, I can recall she was not very sympathetic, not like Jamie Lee Curtis, who was fragile and sweet. And he says, have a nice day, Justin, Nathan, Erik and Joseph. And P.S. I like the accent of Erik a lot. So you have a fan there, Erik. I mean, I think we've spoken about our dislike for Halloween 1 and 2 quite a lot, haven't we? I mean, I don't know if there's anything left to say, really, about why we dislike those, apart from, really, that, you know, they not only pull out the entrails of the original Halloween, but shit in the hole for good measure, and that's the reason I don't like them.
For me, the only thing I can remember from Rob Zombie's 2 Halloween movies is people screaming and shouting obscenities, and, you know...
That's all the dialogue is. Fuck this, fuck that.
Motherfucker, fucking fuck.
Yeah.
God,
you have such a dirty mouth, Erik.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you can find...
You should write the Halloween 3.
Well, I'm glad, Terry, you can find stuff to like in the films, but it's just not to our taste at all. But I'll just to paraphrase it. Terry sent another follow-up email, and he's made suggestion of a film for us to review, which is the Australian slasher movie Next to Kin, aka Return to Montclair. And he says it's been a while since you reviewed a good film, which is arguable. But Next to Kin is a fantastic Aussie horror movie, slasher movie, set in a old people's home, so it's a bit, atypical. It'd be one I'd love to cover at some point. You've all seen it, haven't you?
A long time.
No. Okay. That'll be interesting. Maybe
it's
interesting to watch.
I like it.
Yeah. I think it's a very good movie. He also says it talks about the New Zealand film Trial Run, which I think I might have spoken about in the last podcast, and I will be updating.
You did.
Hysteria Lives with that, and you might have hopefully done that by the time you're listening to this. He also says, interestingly, he doesn't think The Prowler is a very good movie. He says there are effective gore scenes from Savini, but the only good point otherwise, this movie is really, really boring. In French, we say it's a row film, which I'm not sure what that means, but I presume it just means it's a boring film. He says, this film is all about exploring a sorority house, and from time to time something happens. I much prefer the far superior My Bloody Valentine, which has the same thematic stuff about it, and I would agree with him. My Bloody Valentine is a much better film than The Prowler, but I think we all found something to enjoy in The Prowler, didn't we?
Yeah, I do agree that it does get a tad dull at times when they're just wandering around the house, but I think overall it's really good. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Terry, for writing in, and that was kind of interesting. Maybe you'll write it next time, tell us why you bit more why you love Halloween 1 and 2 by Rob Zombie. But as we know, Halloween 3, 3D, or whatever it's going to be now, is probably not going to be in Rob Zombie's hands. So it'll be interesting to see it's probably not a case of if, it's a case of when that gets made, what direction they take it in, really. Should be interesting. And talking of Halloweens, I bought the Halloween 2, the Blu-ray, the new Shout Factory or Scream Factory release, which is out, I think, in about 2 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the 18th of September. Yeah, it's about 2.5 weeks.
That's right, and the reviews are starting to appear online for it, and they sound fantastic. They sound really good, and they say they've even cleaned up the picture more than the Universal release. And I have bought a multi-region Blu-ray player, Erik, but mine costs £60. So I know, I thought, but I don't know if it'll work. Hopefully
I hope it doesn't.
No, it's apparently.
I'm only joking.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it will, because I've got that and Terror Train on order. So, which isn't that?
Not Halloween 3, no.
No, I like Halloween 3, but I've got the DVD at the moment. I'm not sure if I really need it on Blu-ray.
Oh, I'm really intrigued to see the extras on it.
Yeah, I will do. When it goes cheap, I'll probably pick it up. And also, the fact is, I don't want to buy loads of sort of Region A or whatever Blu-rays if my Blu-ray player doesn't actually work.
Oh, true.
So I'm going to sort of try that. But yes, well, thanks, Seri. How about what other feedback have we got?
I have
Erik,
one.
do you have anything?
Yeah, I do. I have one here from Sebastian Bokenkamp. Now, Sebastian has included in this email certain words of German, so you'll have to excuse my pronunciation in advance. It's not my mother's tongue, as they say. He says, "Hi, Joseph, Justin, Erik, and Nathan. I want to congratulate you on your very entertaining and insightful podcast. I'm looking forward to every new episode, and it always keeps me company on long car rides or when I have too much work to do. All of you are doing a great job, and I wish you many more wonderful shows to come. Being from Germany, I was asking myself whether any one of you has ever seen one of the very few German slasher movies. Germany has only produced a handful of slasher movies, but the following ones are worth a watch. Swimming Pool, Der Tod fährt mit, aka The Pool. It's basically Jason Goes to a Water Park and is about a group of high school kids, played by 30-year-olds, who are stalked and killed by a masked killer after they break into an abandoned water park. To my knowledge, it's the only slasher movie that takes place in a water park. At times it's very cheesy, but a few of the kills are very suspenseful and creative. I mean, in what other movie do you see a masked killer kill a girl on a water slide? So Swimming Pool, I haven't seen that one. Have any of you guys seen it?
Oh, it's great.
Is it good?
Yeah. Watch it. It's really good.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
It's not, I'm sold on what Sebastian says here. It sounds really fun.
Oh, it's so fun. You'll love.
Yeah, it's good. It's good fun. It's it's called The Pool. Here.
The Pool, sorry, he says as well, yeah, I must check. I have heard of it, I just never got around to seeing it. The next one he recommends is Flashback, Der Tod fährt mit, as well. In my opinion, the best German slasher movie with a terrific atmosphere and a great story twist. It's about a girl whose parents are killed by a transvestite killer when she was little, and after witnessing the murders, she is sent into a psychiatric institution. A couple of years later, she gets released from the institution and takes a job as a French tutor. But the killer who killed her parents is already waiting for her. So has anyone seen Flashback? I haven't seen that one either.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's really good.
I think I didn't like it, but I don't really remember much about it, so I need to watch it again.
I don't remember.
It's very good.
About it, but it was made around about the same time, wasn't it, as The Pool? It was about 2000, 2001. But yeah, I've seen. I think I've got the video around here somewhere. I'm not sure if I reviewed it on the site, but yeah, I remember it looking. It was kind of set up in the countryside. I seem to remember it's like almost like the Alpy sort of thing, and that was that was a good film.
So yeah, another one I haven't seen. And here comes yet another one I haven't seen. The next one he recommends is Anatomy, the most successful one about a group of medical students getting killed one by one. It was very successful in and outside of Germany, but Flashback is a lot better. Now, Anatomy I obviously have heard of, but I still haven't got around to watching it. Have any of you guys seen Anatomy?
Yeah, I think it's the least of the three. I thought it was kind of boring.
It is.
They made a sequel to it, didn't they? I've seen.
They did, yeah.
But no, I've seen that as well. But again, not for a long, long time.
Okay, so the last one he recommends is, and this is all in German, Schrie denn ich werd dich toten, aka School's Out. It's a decent made-for-TV slasher that met a lot of controversy because, at times, very violent images for a TV movie. Nevertheless, it's a fantastic and very atmospheric movie with a really creepy killer outfit, which is a Harlequin. So, School's Out. Again, haven't seen it, but have any of you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's not bad. I, again, haven't
It's
seen it for
okay.
ages. Was it
I
99?
loved it.
It's got
I don't really remember a whole lot, but I remember it just being okay.
Is it kind of a Harlequin with scissors? Is that the
Yeah,
one?
with a giant pair of scissors.
Yeah.
It's also got a sequel, apparently, that I've never seen.
Which is supposed to be,
about
quite good, actually, isn't it?
I think, on an island killing people.
A nun, do you say?
Killing people on an island. I think that might be what it's about. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
no, I think you're right. Yeah.
There's 4 movies I haven't seen, but I should catch up with.
Yes, well, maybe
Definitely
German
swimming
marathon.
pool's a lot of fun.
Okay.
I'd say it's probably the best one, and it's also because we spoke about it because it's got famous people in it, isn't it? Or people who went on to that guy. Can't remember his name now. Who's in Shameless?
He was in Wanted.
That's right.
Of course, yeah, it's McAvoy,
yeah, that's right, and some other people as well. But it's kind of, that's good. Wasn't it the other film which is kind of German, The Ripper? Wasn't that made in Germany? With there's Kelly Brooks in it. I think that was made in Germany.
Yeah, The Ripper's not that great though.
No, but yeah, I think The Pool's probably the best. It's a good throwback. I mean, all these films were made in light of Scream, weren't they? The success of Scream. So they were.
The Pool has that water slide death scene, but it also has that scene that I really like when they're in the ventilation ducts, and the killer's stabbing at them with a machete through the ventilation ducts.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a good
That's
scene.
cool. Well, thank you, Sebastian. That's
okay. Well, he has a bit more to say. He says, "Finally, I have a suggestion for a future top 3. How about top 3 best rip-off movies? I've seen so many slasher movies in my life, and sometimes you come across a movie that appears to be a blatant rip-off of a more successful movie, but it's nonetheless very entertaining. I'm talking about movies like He Knows You're Alone and Absurd, which are Halloween rip-offs, or A Bloody Murder, which is a huge Friday the 13th rip-off. Many people hate rip-offs, but I don't mind them. When I first saw Halloween, it was pure movie magic for me, and to this day it's my favourite movie of all time. So when I saw He Knows You're Alone, I instantly knew it was a rip-off, and for a blink of a moment I felt the movie magic from Halloween once more. So keep up the great work, guys, and best wishes to you and your cats, especially the one flushing the toilet. And that's from Sebastian Bochenkamp in Germany.
Well, thank you very much,
Sebastian. Top 3 best rip-off movies.
It could be an interesting one to do.
I think there'll be all of them.
Yeah, I know, that's the thing.
Well, in terms of slashers, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll keep that in mind.
Speaking of rip-off movies, one of the movies I watched recently was a movie called Abby, which was successfully sued. Warner Brothers successfully sued the company and put it out of distribution. It's an Exorcist rip-off. It's kind of a blaxploitation version of The Exorcist.
Was it William Girdler?
Yeah.
Who did Grizzly, didn't he?
I liked Abby.
Yeah. It's fun.
I haven't seen Abby, but I'd like to. Does it top the madness of the devil? Not Devil Within Her. What was it?
What's it called?
Beyond the Door.
Beyond the Door. That's the nose flute one. Yes,
it is the nose flute one. Yes.
That's a nice flute, boy.
Can't beat the nose flute. Yeah, and I also love the Antichrist as well. You know that one, not the Lars von Trier movie, the one from the 70s.
Again, that's one I haven't seen. I'd like
It's great
to watch
fun.
that. Is it the Spanish one?
Yeah, is it Spanish or Italian? I can't remember.
It's Spanish, Anticristo. I remember seeing.
Oh yes, yeah.
Oh, cool, excellent.
So in terms of slasher, I mean, you could accuse all of them of being rip-offs. Yeah.
Yes, some more so than others, I imagine. But
true.
But yes, we are kind of scrabbling around for top 3, so I think it's.
Although you could
suggestions coming
with your knowledge of sort of Bollywood and Turkish movies, I'm sure there'd be a juicy top 3 in there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that might be quite interesting to do. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, well, have you got any other feedback?
I don't know.
No. Okay.
Nathan?
No.
Okay. I have a couple just from the forum, just a few little things here. This is from BHY1117. He says, great show, love the best revelations list. I enjoyed the Prowler and wasn't surprised about VHS. I love the Ninja 3 reference. I watched it when I was 8 on TV, and you mentioning it made me smile. Hearing Erik talk about Tom Bray's other films made me nostalgic. I liked Prince of Darkness and have a very warm place in my heart for Deep Star 6. Condolences to Justin for Gilbert. I hope that his new cats will fill the hole in his gothic heart. Looking forward to cutting class on the next podcast. Please deal with the worst songs soon. More cats too. BHY 1117.
Well, there's always. Well, thank you, BHY 117. If I got that right. But yeah, there'll always be cats. I think there's always cats on podcasts, isn't there? Every podcast I listen to practically has got cats.
Yeah, it's a mascot. It's our mascots.
Indeed.
Speaking of Prince of Darkness references, the coach from Cutting Class was in Prince of Darkness.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
He's the guy who gets his neck broken, isn't it? Sort of, he's one of the first victims.
Is it Dirk Walker, I think?
I can't think of the actor's name now, but yeah.
He's Dirk Walker, I think.
That's another film I need to watch again soon, because I haven't seen Prince of Darkness for a long, long time.
I really like it. I know it's one of Carpenter's lesser works, but I have a soft spot in my heart for Prince of Darkness.
Does anyone know what Carpenter's up to at the moment?
Sleeping.
Is he?
Yeah. Smoking.
I can't believe that he's going to live much longer, because he's kind of he looks like a cadaver now, doesn't he?
He does.
He looks like the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah. I mean, I hope he's got another couple of good films in him. I'm reading that Shock Value book, which I spoke about briefly last time, and it's really, really good. It's definitely worth reading. It's all this kind of really interesting backstories and written really well, like and really kind of almost like a real page turn away about how people like Dan O'Bannon and John Carpenter and people like that were at school together, film school together, and their backgrounds and all these kind of quirky stuff which I never knew about. And how they were seen very much as outsiders at film school, and horror films especially were seen as nothing. Nobody should be wasting their time making horror movies. But yeah, it's really good. Really good. I'm sort of really enjoying that. So I shall feedback more. But is anything? Are we spent?
Well, there's just two more. Get these out of the way. It's a great show, guys. I have to agree that what hurts The Prowler is its pacing. There's a lot of good to be had in it, though. The top 3 you did was fun. Keep up the great job, Remy. That's from Rembrandt.
Thanks, Remy.
It's Rembrandt.
Thanks.
And one more. I heard a cat.
That was one of mine.
Well, mine.
Yeah, last one. This is another great show. I agree with Erik and Justin about The Prowler being second tier from the golden era. The pacing absolutely sucks. I fall asleep 90% of the time I watch it. That being said, I love everything else about it. I also love the mention of the house with the laughing windows. That's from Kodiak Jack.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kodiak Jack.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hopefully...
Don't talk back.
Sorry?
I said don't talk back. Kodiak Jack.
Well, thanks for writing, and obviously we'd like to get the feedback. So, and as you can hear, it kind of sparks a mass debate amongst us. So, so we enjoy that very much. So please do keep writing in. I think probably it's that point of the show where we reveal what we're doing next time, and I believe it's Nathan's pick, isn't it?
Oh
yes,
dear!
And you're all going to enjoy it, I promise.
Okay.
Yes.
And what are you going to make us watch, Nathan?
Movie House Massacre.
Oh, I cannot wait. Ooh.
Boy, I will look forward to that.
Thank you, Nathan.
Very excited.
You spoil us with your choices.
I think it's going to be quite an interesting one, isn't it? And you've got an interview with the director, haven't you, Nathan?
Yeah, it's like a 30-minute interview, so...
Yeah. And it's quite well, we'll talk about it, but I interviewed the woman who plays Serena, the usherette who goes bad. And I think
sit on this bitch.
It's going to make for quite an interesting podcast. So actually, I'm really looking forward to that one, Nathan. I'm not a huge fan of the film, but I think it's going to be it'll be interesting to watch it again in light of everything that's been said about it. So yeah, join us next time when we go into the Movie House Massacre. So I think that's it, guys. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
I'll be back.
Yeah, we're going to play
microphone next time.
Yes,
we're going to play out with Andrew Preboy playing Man Talk.
Okay, yes, from Cutting Class. So thanks for joining us for another epic show, and join us again in a couple of weeks. So take care, guys.
Ta-ta.
Bye.